Wait, what is happening here? Oh, that's me yesterday. I'm frozen in place. I was like, that's not what I'm wearing. Am I live? Okay, there we go. There we go. That was so scary. I was like, oh my God, that is not the clothes I have on. There we go. Just give me a couple more seconds. I have the best update for you on that case we were following yesterday. The doctor, Teresa Bornpole, who was attacked. And now I'm using the language that Danish is using, kidnapped, zip-tied, and dragged out of that town hall. Oh my God. Do I have some updates for you on that? Justice is so sweet. There's nothing better than the justice of the internet when horrible white nationalist bigots begin to get what they deserve. Truly, there was just nothing better. Like, I'm so glad. I mean, I'm not so glad that woman had to be like kidnapped and dragged out of that town hall, but now we're finally going to root out some of the horrible white nationalist POSs that are in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, that terrorized me when I was trapped in Idaho for 5 years. So finally, I'm in. Something good is going to come of all of this horrible stuff. Oh, God. Hold on. One more second. I need to focus on making sure we get live on YouTube. Oh, hey. Hey, Dani. I can hear
Hey.
your dog. Man, you are gonna love the research I did. I'm so glad you're a doctor because I just started reading I was reading like the methodology of the sepsis, the ProPublica sepsis study, and yeah, I need more time on it. So I'm sure it made perfect sense to you, but I was like, I've just been in a Teresa Bornpole.
I can't wait to go over that.
Oh, you're going to be so happy when you see the updates. Oh my God, it's like Christmas. I feel like we are literally in Christmas. People have fucked around and they're finding out.
For sure. Please, I'm going to go out, come back in. Something's going on with my camera. Everything kind of went dark for me. So I'm going to go out and come back.
Okay, cool. Because I can see you fine. But yeah, go out, come back in. Good morning, broads. Good morning, Toodle. Oh my God, do I have the best Teresa Bornpole updates? Finally, that horrible man who is, by the way, you want to talk about Republicans and waste, fraud, and abuse? How the are you on disability in California for a job you're doing in Idaho? Can someone explain that to me? The man is on disability, like Republicans who are rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse, who are also participating in waste, fraud, and abuse. Can you, as a cop, be on disability in one state and be and then be assaulting people in another state, like doing the same job? Can you do that?
I mean, as far as I know, if you're collecting disability, even if it's in California and then you're working in Idaho, you're supposed to report that income, right? So like, if you're not reporting that income, that is fraud.
I feel like his life is about to come crashing down around him, and I cannot wait. I cannot wait. Let me make sure I have all these. Oh my God, I can't wait. Like literally, oh my God. I'm just so excited. Do you want to talk about, well, let's keep tapping the screen. Are we tapping? I am not seeing tapping. Yay, Joanna's back. Welcome, Joanna. Just a reminder, Joanna was gone yesterday because we're raising a child. We're raising a biracial child in a small town in Arkansas. We have like 3 weeks until Joanna's daughter is giving birth, and then she's the youngest grandmother in Arkansas. So if you want, there is a Amazon wish list with onesies and different things for the child we're all now legally responsible for until it's 18. Until they're 18. It's a boy, right? It's a boy. We're raising a boy, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're raising a boy. It's happening tomorrow. Is your daughter being induced? That's what you were telling me. You were going to watch that documentary. I was like, you're planning documentaries like a week or like weeks in advance. I was like, sure, I have many documentaries. So she's being induced. This is scary. I'm scared. I just had a shot of like fear. Not that there's anything to worry about, but this is real life, people. We're going to be parents. This is finally happening for me. I'm so selfish. It's all happening. This is just the way I saw it. Wish it was another baby broad, but we could perfect this. I know this is our chance to finally raise like a man, that's not a bigot in Arkansas. It's going to be great. And biracial, no offense, but hybrids, as I call myself, we're always the best looking. We have diverse gene pools. We're really healthy too, so I think it's good.
Also, this shirt today, Felice, like the pink is pinking. I love it.
I know. I love it too. People are always like, are you just wearing your shirt wrong? I'm like, no. And sadly, when I bought this shirt, I sent it back twice because I thought like they sent me the wrong shirt because it does just look like a tank top. And then they had to like email and be like, no, that's the shirt. You're just putting it on wrong. And I was like, oh.
Ma'am, you don't know how to dress yourself? Let us help.
And they literally had to send me an email and be like, I think you're very confused. Thank you, Catherine, for the... Wait, is this yesterday? I feel like... No, it's today. Thank you, Catherine. My favorite show is on. Receipts upon receipts. Thank you for the $5, Catherine. You're amazing. Okay, let's do Teresa Borenpaul first, because I just love this update. And I also love the videos Danish made. Do you know who Danish is? Were you on TikTok like around the pandemic?
Yeah, I know who this person is. I don't think I follow them or see anything from them regularly.
Like a long time ago, I used to know him. Like we used to sometimes message. I just haven't seen. Yeah, I haven't seen his content in so long. But particularly, like racist bigots and things are pretty much Danish. Like is super annoyed with them. So he just it used to be like videos of people being like racist or doing horrible things. He's a really good like internet investigator, and then he would. My link tree is gone. How is that possible, Miller? Hold on. I don't know. I want to believe that couldn't be true. Where? Like on TikTok, you're saying? Hold on. Let me pull up my TikTok profile.
I think I see his stuff a lot more frequently on Instagram than I do on TikTok. And that's probably just says something about how my algorithm works.
Well, yeah. And he switched to Instagram because I think he stopped getting views on TikTok. But during the pandemic, he used to get a lot of views on TikTok. Me too. Like his stuff always pops up for me on wait, where is, hold on. I'm just clicking on wait a minute. What is this? TikTok, what is on my profile? Instagram, YouTube? How is my link tree going? Wait, hold on. Let me just click on this and see if it loads. And it's my Discord. How weird. That is so strange. You're right. I see what you're talking about. Let me figure this out. This is the weirdest thing. My link tree is no longer on my YouTube, and I promise I didn't do that. I have no idea, and now there's just like separate links there. I don't know how that could have happened or why that could have happened, but yeah, I need to change that, and I obviously can't do it right now, so I'll have to figure that out later, which is super, super weird. God, I have no idea. It was there yesterday, I swear. I guess I could just find it and put it in really quick. But yeah, I'll do it. I'll start this video and then I'll do it. I need to just update my sub goal. Let's do 3. We have 279 subs. I want to get to 300 today. Oh, and my gift goal. Because nothing better than knowing that you have a reoccurring revenue. Okay. Sorry, I didn't do this before because I've been recording things. Okay, got it. I have to remind me, but thank you for reminding me of my gift goals too. Okay, let me find the right video. I think I need to go backwards, which again, I'll just start with the good news really quick because I'm so happy for her. So I just did this. This is just a screenshot of the GoFundMe. If you want to look it up, you can screenshot this and just look it up. You can just Google her name and GoFundMe is like it will just like pop up. Isn't this great? $248,339. There was a goal of 30,000. She's going to find the best lawyer. Like, I was reading and people are contacting her for interviews and things, and she's not even, which is smart. She's not talking to anyone because she's finding a really good lawyer to ruin this man's life with. And I just cannot wait.
I would literally like a villain.
I'm going to move to Idaho and support her.
Plotting my revenge, right? But like a vigilante villain, because obviously she's not the villain in this case. But like, I would be doing the exact same thing. Everybody else is mobilizing around her. I love that for her. But the fact that she's like staying quiet, y'all, when women get quiet, be very scared. Be terrified. We are plotting. We are plotting your demise.
And in some of the video, like when they were still harassing her, like when they first dragged her into the hall, you can hear her say, like, I'm going to get $1 million, like, because you're an idiot or something. And then the guy was like laughing and mocking her. And she's just like, okay, whatever. Oh, yeah. I saw Lear lost their license. Listen, I called Lear Asset Management and left so many horrific messages last night. I was just like, I saw you guys are no longer licensed to do private security. That's so weird. I found the guy's phone number and email that owns the place. I'm like out of control sometimes. Like my job in advertising, like it's a marketable skill. It's called cloud-based query. Like I used to be able to find like and vet anyone's, like the CEO of General Motors. Like I found the CEO of Nike's cell phone number. I could find anyone's contact information. Yeah, I have a problem when I really get into it. You can find anyone's information. But I thought
the town hall taking
this is, in case you have no idea what we're all so gleeful about, I think this is a good... Danesh made a good like review video on why we're so pissed. Like a woman was literally kidnapped, zip tied, assaulted, dragged out of a town hall in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, in the panhandle of Idaho. I was talking about this yesterday. As a Division I athlete, I had to live in Idaho for 5 years, and like Coeur d'Alene is the birthplace of the Aryan Nation. The white nationalist and Christian nationalist movements there are so intense. Like the hate against women, all of it like is intense. So when I saw this, I was like, oh yeah, like I'm not surprised by this at all. This was my experience there, and I think Donna did a great job covering this.
Place where Ed Bergerano was speaking, and he was speaking against things like diversity, equity, and inclusion, and for things like Donald Trump and Christian nationalism. Of course, there are people in the town hall who disagreed. This is a town hall. You're going to have a marketplace of ideas here. You're going to have a variety of different beliefs here. It is absolutely normal to have dissent. I have to say that, and it's very sad that I have to say that, but Republicans under Trump believe in crushing any dissent whatsoever because, of course, it is a cult. Now, watch what happens here.
Just say, does this Sheriff Norris man not look like the farmer in Men in Black who is an alien? Like when you get close up to his face, he looks exactly like that farmer in the first Men in Black who has an alien inside of him.
Get up or be arrested.
So you know, folks, when
get up or be arrested.
When our nation began, there was some really
get this all on film.
No, I'm not recognizing you.
What would you like to do?
So yes, we're going to get to.
Is this your jurisdiction?
Yes, it is.
Plenty of chance.
This is not a negotiation.
But, you know, the problem
I've been asked to leave.
is the folks.
I haven't been asked to leave.
I'm telling you to leave.
Look at that.
This is the town hall.
He's showing how intelligent he is.
You too. Even also. Let's go. Come on.
Yeah, and the most important part, and someone said this in the comments, and I'll show the video in a second, but yeah, he knows exactly who this woman is. So does the man on stage. If you listen to the horrible comments, the man on stage is taunting her and calling her a little girl and cheering on the assault. They know exactly who this woman is, who her friends are. Like she ran for public office several times, and they are targeting her. Here, I'm going to
like, where are the men, right? Why is it only women? Men are not protectors. And this video is a perfect example of it. Men are protectors of the patriarchy. They're protectors of the system that keeps them in power, right? Because as soon as he doesn't like what she says, he degrades her and devalues her by calling her little girl, right? He uses hostile sex to put her back in her place. And it's only women in that you can hear women saying, what are you doing? What are you doing? Right? Men are not protectors.
Well said. Wait, I just want to get, because we've all seen a lot of this horror show, but I want to get to the
Look at that.
This is a town hall.
He's showing how intelligent he is.
You too.
With all of
Even
the
also. Let's go. Come on.
This competition. They came here to disrupt.
well, I don't know if that's
Rebel rousers.
because we could.
Asking you to go.
Bob, you know this
You want
is a
pepper spray?
You know this is a very
Let's
bad
go.
idea.
Do you want pepper spray? Like, in what world do three men assault, threaten, while a man from a bully pulpit is publicly harassing them, and other men in the crowd, like, I've watched so many different angles, other men in the crowd very clearly also know who she is and are cheering as she is assaulted. Like,
Totally. They are.
kidnapped by three men.
Yep. If you are a protector, right? If men want to be protectors, then you are protectors of women. You are not protectors only of women that bow down to you, only of women that are saying things that you like, only of women that agree with you, right? I say this all the time. I don't give a shit. I do not give a shit how a man treats you when you are saying something he likes. I do not give a shit how a man treats you when you are doing something that he agrees with, right? I give a shit how a man treats you when you're not bowing to his needs, when you're not giving him everything he wants, when you say no, when you disagree with him, when you push back at him, right? That's what I care about. How does a man treat you then? Does he treat you with respect, right? As another human being? Or does he say, I won't respect you as a human being unless you respect my authority over you, right? Anyone can treat you nicely when you're agreeing with them. But if the second you disagree with a man, he uses sexism to degrade you, tells you everything you need to know.
God, I could not agree more. That is such a good point. Exactly. It's so easy. Like, they only prop up women that agree with them, and until it's only as far as you push their own ideology, which is that the patriarchy is the last and final say. And the minute you don't echo that anymore, good luck to you. Then you are this woman who nobody came and helped except for other women. Even elderly women were just standing in the hallway. The woman selling snacks at the high school in the hallway is an elderly woman, and she's like, hey, this is wrong. And they're screaming at her. They're screaming at elderly women. And there were no men, except for, there was, in fairness, one other man who was like zip tied or something in the hallway. They had some other guy zip tied, and he wouldn't shut up. I will get
You're not helping. You're not helping.
Guys,
Come on, let's go.
Stop it.
Let's
Get the
go.
fuck away from me.
Don't touch her.
This isn't a sheriff. Excuse me, Sheriff Norris. This gentleman is assaulting me. This man is assaulting me.
Now, let's go.
This man is assaulting me. Is this your deputy? Is this your deputy?
Get her out.
No, don't fucking touch us. Is he a deputy? Who are those? These are deputies. Who the fuck are these men? Who the fuck are you?
Hey,
Hey, hey.
over the kill. Let's go.
If you hurt me, who are these guys? Who the fuck are these guys? Who the fuck are these guys? You are hurting her.
We know the government has been mismanaging.
You are not deputy. Who are these guys? Who are you? Who are these guys? Who are you? Who the fuck are these guys? Who are these guys? Show your badge. Who are you?
Ma'am?
losers. Why are three alpha males incapable of subduing a tiny woman? You know what?
Literally.
How truly embarrassing. And she's smart too. Always let them drag your dead body away. Become a wet noodle. Like, I mean, that's what, God, the times I have used that. Like, go limp and then start kicking when they least expect it. Like, she literally. Yeah, they're so strong. 4 men, literally 3 young men, and then this guy could not subdue it.
Who the fuck
Just
are you?
cooperate, it'll be 100 times better.
Yeah, that's what they say to rape victims, you fucking piece of
Just
shit.
cooperate.
That is what they say to rape victims, you fucking piece of shit. Just let it happen. What the like, I cannot even watch it. I become so infuriated when I see this. Like, just let it happen.
Like, and if anyone's watching this, like, I just want to validate, if you feel the anxiety rising in your body, if you have trauma, if you've been assaulted by a man before, it's like, this is normal, right? And I just want to recognize how so many women in America are having to live through being traumatized over and over and over again, right? Because watching this triggers people immensely. And we're seeing stuff like this consistently. So...
Yeah, okay. And don't yell at me in the comments to play the video. This is a talk show where a doctor and I, a historical researcher, talk about things. If you don't like it, you can leave and go find this video. And then for the person who's not being rude and asked a genuine question and said, I wonder if Tizzy or Donish have seen this. This is Donish's video from Instagram, like, which I love because, you know, once he starts doing research, it just gets better and better. So yeah, this is Donish's video that we're watching from Instagram right now.
Just identify yourselves. Who are you? Who are you?
Today. I applaud them for doing so. Thank you for coming. But the problem is this. They didn't come here to listen. They came here to interrupt. Isn't that what Elon is exposing in Washington, D.C.? Don't we have that same type of disruption everywhere in our government?
Let me see your badge. Where are your badges? Who are you and where are your badges?
What's your badge number?
And so many times you close your mouth and you don't close your mouth. You'll have an opportunity to speak.
Do you hear these men saying you won't close your mouth? This is a motherfucking town hall where people are supposed to where citizens, this is a woman who has run for the state legislature. She lives here 4 times. She's run for state legislature. She is a doctor. She's at a town hall on public property that her tax dollars have paid for. They're at the local Coeur d'Alene High School. I know. I used to live. I was a Division I athlete in Idaho. You don't know how this brings up I have been diagnosed with PTSD. This brings up so many horrific memories for me of what it's like in Idaho. This is what it's like for intelligent women. You wouldn't close your mouth. Yeah, that's what they told me when I was trapped there.
Where are your badges? Who are these people?
I thought Republicans believed in free speech.
Not when you're interrupting when somebody's speaking. That's what your problem is. You said you'll get an opportunity to go to a mic and speak. But you gotta keep your mouth moving.
And do you hear that? He's like, they said you would get an opportunity to go to a mic and speak, but you won't shut your mouth. Okay. And so just to be clear, I, as a researcher, have done a lot of research on this. This is the 4th town hall these people have attended. Many people have now been on several different news stations in Spokane, in Seattle, in Coeur d'Alene, saying that nobody is ever allowed to speak at these town halls, but pre-approved speakers who these people know. There is never a dissenting voice allowed. So it is not true that they would be allowed at the microphone. Multiple people have been on news shows saying, no, if you don't agree with these men, you are not allowed to speak. And wait till you see the video that Donish found. Not only did they target this woman? A year ago, that this sheriff that sent these men who are not police officers after her was giving a PowerPoint presentation about how she's a problem and needs to be handled. So this is the handling.
Get your hands off. Where are your badges? Who are you?
Hey, get out of the way.
Who are these people? They don't even have badges.
Doesn't matter. I'm allowed to film in public. I'm asking you to please leave.
No, I'm going to make sure my friend is safe. You're assaulted her. You're letting people assault her. You're letting people assault her. You're letting people assault her. You are letting people assault her. She's being assaulted.
Both of you, come on.
She's being assaulted.
Sit down.
Who are they? You're letting people assault her.
Thank you, Sheriff. Hey, Ned. I need 2 more security officers, please.
And 2 more security officers in the back. Paul?
The man speaking is comparing her to a little girl before reveling in the fact that she's being manhandled, assaulted, kidnapped, and zip-tied. That is not by coincidence. I would absolutely check his hard drive. I'm not even joking. I'm not just trying to make fun of him. 1,000,000,000% check the hard drive. When somebody compares someone to a child, then revels in their bodies being violated, absolutely check his hard drive. Now, these 2 plainclothesmen that assaulted her and kidnapped her and zip-tied her, they are not police. They are security. They have no legal right to be doing any of this. They need to be held accountable. The security detail group is Lear Asset Management, run by Paul Tourette here, who is also there. And of course, you had the sheriff, Bob Morris, there as well, the sheriff of Kootenai County, who
I called Paul like 7 times last night.
says, I did not hire them. I had nothing to do with them. Somebody else hired them. Yeah, but you were directing them, and they were following your directions, and they committed assault because you told them to do it. You can't do any of that. Well, he's saying I wasn't acting on my position as a sheriff. That's worse, man. That's worse. Like, that's not an excuse. There's no way to justify being violent towards dissent at a town hall. When you're outside of your Trump rallies, your little cult meetings, other people are not fanatics. Other people disagree with the hatred towards diversity, equity, and inclusion. A lot of us actually like that because for too long, unqualified white people get jobs based on who they know, based on what they look like, over overqualified people of color who are working their asses off to get a job. And the people that do get jobs through diversity, equity, and inclusion are the best of the best, way better than those mediocre white people they replace. And the mediocre white people they've been replaced with under Trump. That is not giving you more efficiency by any means. That is, of course, prioritizing white people and prioritizing the racisms of the past. Moving forward, who are these 2 men? Who are these 2 men? They are not police officers. They're security officers, and they need to be arrested. Speaking of being a...
I figured out who one of them is. He's a white nationalist who comes from North Dakota, then Montana, now he's in Coeur d'Alene, trying to crowdfund for like police officers, basically for his like white nationalist group. He's insane. Like exactly when I spent like an hour talking about this yesterday, exactly who I thought these people are, that's who they are. That's who men are in Coeur d'Alene. Like Danish, he probably has never lived in Idaho. I think he lives in North Carolina, so he probably is familiar, but he doesn't know how spot on he is. Like this is literally the birthplace of the Aryan nation. This is where white nationalist men congregate, gather, form militias to be POSs. This is like the mecca of mediocre white men who feel insecure and need to consolidate power, like in the woods together.
Literally,
that's how I would describe it.
One of the things I study is the manosphere, right? But the Venn diagram between the manosphere and white supremacy is a huge crossover, right? Huge crossover. They literally, like, think about Idaho, y'all. It's relatively rural, right? Like a large part of Idaho is rural. They have men go there by the hundreds, sometimes by the thousands, to train in these white supremacist militias in the rural areas, right? They like go out into nature and they train in military type combat and things like that. And like he's doing here at this town hall, right? The kind of shit that they're doing here at this town hall. And not only that, but I think it's so interesting how this guy says, I wasn't acting in my capacity as a sheriff. Oh, but you sure called upon that authority, didn't you? If you weren't acting in your capacity as a sheriff, so if you're a police officer and you're hired at a bank as like an off-duty officer, but you're still in your uniform, right? You are still connected to the police force. You are still responsible. You are still acting as an official officer of the law, right? If you are not, if you are working for a private security detail, then you do not get to call upon your authority as an officer. If you call upon your authority of an officer, you better be acting in that capacity. He calls upon his authority as an officer. He says, I'm the sheriff. I'm the sheriff, multiple times on video, which is why it's so important to record, right? So then you can't turn around and say, I wasn't in any way acting in my official capacity. If that's true, then it was wildly inappropriate for you to call upon your authority in that way.
Preach, truly preach. And this man's life, like, these are the people saying they need to cut SNAP and Medicaid. This man is collecting disability in Los Angeles, showed up in mother effing Idaho, and is working as a sheriff, beating up a woman whilst on disability, saying he's disabled and cannot work, and still seems to muster the strength to beat up a woman. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Lear Asset Management has lost their security license. You cannot contact them. They are not taking calls. They are all in hiding. But they were very clearly in hiding in the first place. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can hear like denials that they're even there, because it was very clear they weren't police officers. And when the police get there, the sheriff himself is like, oh, I didn't hire them. I don't know why they're there. And you can hear them. The guy on stage knows they have private security, saying we need 2 more security officers to the back. These are all mediocre, insecure white males hanging out in the backwoods of Idaho, as they do, who all know each other and knew her and targeted her and her friends. That is exactly what is going on. Welcome to Idaho. Keep tapping the screen. Let's tap the screen. We're almost to 50K. We should be at 100K. You guys are amazing. Amazingly strong fingers. That sounds weird. Keep tapping the screen. It gets better.
Let's talk about the sheriff a little here. This is, by the way, sheriff departments are elected positions. Sheriffs are elected. And because of that, you don't get someone who's maybe qualified for the job. You get someone that, people agree, hey, this guy should do the job. And maybe that could turn out to be a good thing. But all I've seen happen so far are things like San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, where you have Sheriff Dykes, who's credibly accused by me, by the way, of being allegedly senile, locking Alex Eden and Mirando.
You would have to know who is talking, but you'd have to know Donish's story. Like, because of what he does online, he was basically stalked, targeted. Like, it is a crazy story that is somehow related to this. And he's just like now basically talking about his own case of being stalked by a sheriff, which is very real because I know this story, but you'd have to have watched Donish's content like back from like the pandemic.
For over a year now. It's something he doesn't do for pedophiles, but he does that to Alex because he wanted to what? Better the community? Now you can't have that. Not under Sheriff Dykes, looking like Wallace from Wallace and Gromit here. You have Sheriff Carmine Marcino of Lee County, Florida, who would not arrest my children's stalker, who was on probation when she stalked them, who admitted in court that she did it after we showed them that were caught on camera doing it. He will not arrest her for it, and I had to go ahead and sue her instead because Marcino allegedly banged her. That's right, and Marcino's known for that because he's banged a lot of women.
This is all in court documents. He's telling the truth, and he ties this all together. It's like, why is he saying this? He'll land the plane.
And fathered a lot of children all around Lee County because he loves to abuse his position as sheriff to take advantage of his citizens. As a reminder, Sheriff Carmen Marcino is currently under investigation by the FBI. If you want to read more about my children's stalking case, my court case, by the way, go to my Substack. It is an awesome read. Now, getting back to it. This sheriff is no different when it comes to corruption. Before we get into him, I want to talk about who did, in fact, hire this security group. It was the Kunai County Republican Chair Committee. You see them on their Facebook here with their Sean Spicer banner photo there. They claimed that the audience, the people, a lot of groups in the audience did not agree with the things that Bergerano was saying. Of course, this is a very creepy man talking about assaulting children, so who would agree with him? They did not agree with what he was saying, and therefore they determined that they should be violently removed. This is what the Republican Party under Trump looks like. If you remember the first term, that's the shit he does. You want federal aid? You better kiss up. You're a foreign country, you want access to our personal data files? You want access to any one of our citizens? Sure. Just go ahead and rub Trump's belly. He'll do whatever you want. He is so incredibly pathetic. Anyway, the reason they gave for violent security was, according to them, a threat that they received from an unrelated person. Remember, there's a lot of people in the audience speaking out against the person at the town hall, Ed Bergerano, but only this one doctor was targeted. And they're saying the reason is because an unrelated person sent a threat to a different representative. This is not a threat. This is not a credible threat. This is not a credible threat. The reason I know is because I receive threats all the time. And when I report it to the police, they say, not a credible threat. And the things I get are far more specific than this. So, based on that experience, and based on experience that a lot of you have had too, have any of you ever had to go to the police because you received threats online? And did they not just turn you away and say it's not a threat? Yeah. So, same shit, man. Not a threat. Not a threat. If it's a threat, deal with the threats we get. Until then, fucking deal with it. It's not a threat. Regardless, still not an excuse to be violent just because there's differences of ideas. Now, let's talk a little bit more about Bob Norris, the sheriff here, the corrupt sheriff who came from one of the most corrupt police stations in the country. While he was there, the police station was ordered to stop having police gangs. That's right, they have police gangs. And not like it's a rumor or, maybe I think they do. They literally had to make laws to stop police gangs because it's so common. That is terrifying. A gang in control of a police department. Of course, it's what we've been saying all this time, but now you can see it. He left that job, but still collects disability from it. How do you collect disability for a job you're currently doing somewhere else? Is that not fraud? He's also very dishonest about his residency, and that is, of course, to cheat his taxes. And it's not for nothing, but dude doesn't return his library books. And that one I find the hardest to believe, because I'd have to accept that he walked into a library. So not only do these two security guys need to be arrested, Bob needs to be arrested as well. So I guess my question is it...
I love Donish. Like, he does make good content. Sometimes I disagree with some things he's saying, but
a gang in control of a police department, of course.
So this is the worst part, of the whole thing, is that this was all planned. Like I was saying, this is another video he made hours later.
A gang in control of a police department. Of course, it's what we've been saying all this time, but now you can see it. He left that job, but still collects disability from it. How do you collect disability for a job you're currently doing somewhere else? Is that not fraud? He's also very dishonest about his residency, and that is, of course, to cheat his taxes. And it's not for nothing, but dude doesn't return his library books. A gang in control of a police department. Of course, it's what we've been saying all this time, but now you can see it. He left that job, but
sorry, I think
from it. How do you collect disability for a job you're currently doing somewhere else? Is that not fraud? He's also very dishonest about his residency.
Maybe this is the wrong... Hold on, it's this video.
Update on Sheriff Norris of Kootenai County in Idaho. It looks like we've uncovered some audio from last year revealing that the sheriff has had it out for the woman he used a private security firm to kidnap from a town hall event.
That have said things that are false. And Teresa Bornpaul, and I think she's running, I will call her out. She's another activist. We need to make sure that we don't elect activist leaders in this community.
We need to make sure she's another activist. This man is doing a PowerPoint presentation about the woman he kidnapped from a town hall a year before. He's in so much mother effing trouble. Oh my God, I can't even deal. He's doing a power presentation and then kidnaps her a year later.
And if you ever wanted any evidence that men are terrified of women, terrified. Men know how powerful women are and how powerful women's voices are. If they didn't, they wouldn't make a PowerPoint. Y'all, at the moment a Republican makes a PowerPoint presentation about how I need to be taken down, that is the moment I have hit my peak. I have hit my peak. Like, I know I'm doing something, right? I had Ron DeSantis.
My PowerPoint.
I know, right? Ron DeSantis said something about me in a government meeting in Florida, and I was like, "Oh my God, I'm on your radar. You hate me?
I believe that.
Great job."
Could totally see that. Ron DeSantis is terrified of women, including his wife. Like, watching them communicate, I'm like, oh my God.
We need to make sure we don't do that. In my opinion, there are a couple of city council members that are on the city of Coeur d'Alene council that are more of an activist than they are representative.
Christy was one of them.
So, I mean, we need to make sure that we elect leaders that really understand what their role is and not activists.
That really understand what their role is. How much you bet that those other people are women too? There's a couple of city council members that can read, are educated, can read court documents and legislation and understand that Republicans are robbing us. Is that what you're worried about? Like, does everyone understand this man is committing disability? He is on disability in Los Angeles, saying he can't work, is still a resident there, somehow is working in Coeur d'Alene in the job he's too disabled to do, and collecting another check.
The people, I always think that this is the most interesting thing about Republicans. I just made a video, or was it last? Yeah, it must have been last week because it's Tuesday. I just made a video last week about how gender stereotypes are just men projecting about their own insecurities and bad behavior. The exact same is true for Republicans. It's all a projection. So these leeches on the system, these people scamming the system, it's them. They're talking about themselves.
Could not agree more. And I just want to be clear. So I did update, like someone pointed out to me that for some reason, like my link tree disappeared from my TikTok profile. I have no idea how that happened. It did happen. I promise it wasn't me, but I did just updated it. So my link tree is back in my profile. So if you click on that now, because I just literally did it in real time, then you can join the Discord through there. I don't know how it disappeared or what happened or why. Wait, let me make sure my Discord is still in. I have no idea. But yeah, I did I'll double check and make sure the Discord link is there. But at least now my link, oh yes, it is still there. But yeah, my link tree is back in my bio. So if you want to join the Discord, which has these links to this stuff. Again, this is just Donish's Instagram account. You can just follow him on Instagram and these are like his top reels.
Why? It's because he knew who she was, because she had previously run for office. She's smarter than they are and far more qualified, and they were threatened by her. That's why they kidnapped her that night. This needs to go viral. Sheriff Norris needs to be in jail. No more excuses. Breaking.
I love that, truthfully. And I don't know why. I mean, it's so true, though. And he looks exactly like the alien from Men in Black. Like, we cannot forget about that. And someone asked, like, oh, I hope she's suing him. Again, if you want to contribute, I think it's actually up to $250K now. Like, it was like right before I started the live, I just screenshotted the GoFundMe. So she has $250,000. She's not doing interviews. She's looking for a lawyer. She's going to sue these people. There is video evidence of this guy making a PowerPoint presentation and saying she needs to be stopped. Is at 252. Thank you. So great. Like, don't worry, there's going to be a lawsuit. I might move to Coeur d'Alene to become her personal security.
And this all started, just to say, because she's a doctor, she ran for the Democratic Party in a really, really red area. What the video, I don't think it showed because it cut off before it started with her talking, right? But what was happening before this was that the Republican was saying, well, I did such an amazing job. I did amazing things. I made laws so that way doctors wouldn't be forced to perform an AB. First of all, there's been conscience clauses in this country for decades. For decades. We don't need laws to say that. If you're a pharmacist, if you're a doctor, first of all, it's my own personal opinion that if you can't provide the care, then maybe you should be in a different job. If you can't provide the care and you have to let your own religious biases get in the way of providing care, then maybe you need a different job. But there are conscience clauses that exist in the US. If you're a pharmacist, you don't have to dispense birth control or the AB pill or the morning after pill. You do have to provide a referral to another pharmacy or allow another pharmacist to fill it, right? You do have to provide access to that care, even if you are not the one providing it. Same thing that happened here. No doctors anywhere, ever. I would love for anybody to find me an example of a doctor who was forced to give an AB, right? Who was forced to. If you don't want to do it, you just make a referral to another provider. And there are several doctors that do not or will not perform ABs, maybe not because of a conscience clause, but particularly because they may not have the training to do so, especially now that we have these red states that have these strict bans. Doctors are not getting the training that they need, right? And they're not getting the experience they need to perform things like DNCs and stuff like that. So some doctors might say, like, I'm going to give it to like Dr. Mandy because she's more versed in this. She performs more of these. That's fine. No doctor's ever been forced. So at the beginning of this, he says, I've done an amazing thing. I made these laws so that way no doctor would be forced to perform this. And other people in the crowd, some other woman screams, women are dying here. What are you talking about? Another woman screams, doctors are fleeing the state. We don't have enough doctors. And he tells these women to shut up. He tells these women to be quiet. And Teresa stands up and says, is this a town hall or she doesn't stand up. She just yells, is this a town hall or a lecture? And that's what gets this response from these men. That, not the other women yelling, what are you talking about? Doctors are leaving, or saying, this is more dangerous for us. He tells those women to shut up. She says, is this a town hall or a lecture? And they dive on her.
No, thank you. Thank you for tapping, Em. It's okay. I figured you weren't really. That happens sometimes. People accidentally request when tapping. I appreciate it. Keep tapping the screen. Yeah. Yesterday, we watched like hours of these videos. It's horrific what happens inside this meeting. And yes, like we played the NBC News piece on this yesterday. And we did say at the beginning of this, the charges have been dropped, right? Like, and actually I found a more local piece that I like about this that I recorded this morning and I'm going to play because I think it's really good. Oh, wait, sorry. I was like, why can't I see it? Hold on.
Tonight that a North Idaho woman will not be facing charges after she was dragged out of a Republican town hall event in Coeur d'Alene over the weekend.
It happened on Saturday, and the story quickly took off on social media. KREM 2 Shannon Mowdy spoke with the woman who watched it all unfold.
Chaos and confusion. As a North Idaho woman was dragged from a Kootenai County Legislative Town Hall Saturday. Tanya Coppich shot this video as she sat directly behind Dr. Teresa Borenpaul. They're part of the same Facebook group of liberal women who wanted the chance to address lawmakers.
Like people are beating. I want to go find that Facebook group and join it. Be like, I'm going to find that Facebook group. Be like, can I be friends?
Able to ask questions and see if their legislators are okay what's going on in Washington. Like, I thought it would be something more like that.
Instead, witnesses say dissenters to the Kootenai County Republican Central Committee's views were told to shut up. Laura Tennyson is often with Borenpaul at these town halls.
And every single one that we've been to, we have never been able to ask a question. She
admits they were heckling in an effort.
So no, you can't actually ask a question. So when that man from the stage was saying, shut up, you would have had a chance to ask a question, but you couldn't shut your mouth. That was all a lie.
To get their voices heard.
There were people all over the auditorium, booing, cheering, yelling things out, some in support.
But she says when Borenpaul kept speaking out,
there's an opportunity for you to sound off.
Sheriff Bob Norris tried to pull her out. The sheriff was unavailable Monday, but spoke with KREM 2 News Saturday, saying attendees were warned not to disrupt.
Some that I saw, no less than 10 times they were asked to leave.
We have now learned that Teresa Boren-Paul will not be cited for allegedly biting a security officer as she was forcibly removed from Saturday's town hall. Coeur d'Alene's police department now says they have more evidence and videos to investigate. But we do.
Have you ever been dragged out of somewhere by your hair? As someone who was in a highly abusive situation as a child, what you do when someone is dragging you by your hair, you have no control over. You will do anything to make the pain stop. They were dragging her by her hair out of that room. Like, there are videos of it. Like, she's screaming, "Let go of my hair, let go of my hair." People are screaming, "Let go of her hair. Stop dragging her by her hair." What can you do when you're in horrific amounts of pain? It's called... We always talk about reactive abuse. She's getting charged for trying to stop herself from being assaulted.
I was just going to say that. Something that is just fucking amazing to me, honestly. And I have to work with law enforcement every once in a while. I had to have law enforcement come out to my house for like a stalking situation relatively recently, and threats and stuff like that, right? And so, because I live in a very red area, and sometimes what I do gets known, right? And I had somebody following me while I was walking my dog, screaming at me. It was a very elevated situation. I came home, I got in the house, and the person that was following me was like, "I'm going to call the police." And I was like, "Great. You sound like a fucking idiot." So the police come, and I'm super, I'm upset. I'm worked up. This person has followed me to my house, right? And I told the police officer, I'm like, can you just give me a minute? I just need to breathe for a minute. And the police officer goes, "You had several minutes before we get here. You need to speak to us now." And I was like, great de-escalation techniques. Wonderful de-escalation techniques. I thought your job was to de-escalate a situation, not come in and escalate it. I'm going to go in my house and slam the door in your face right now because I'm not being detained, right? Great. And I walked in my house and slammed the door in their fucking face and came back out 5 minutes later after I had breathed and calmed down, and let them fucking wait there because of this shit. Your job as an officer, your primary job to de-escalate a situation. If you have to pull out your firearm or your pepper spray in the course of your job, something should have gone horrifically wrong. I'm not saying there is never a time where you will have to use force like that. I'm saying it should be so few and far between. And if you are in a situation where you can threaten somebody like that with pepper spray or with pulling out your firearm, it is not a situation in which you should be pulling out your pepper spray or your firearm, because the situation in which you should be doing that should be so serious and so severe that the only response is you pulling out your pepper spray, not warning someone. If you have the time to warn somebody, you have the time to de-escalate this fucking situation.
Yeah, I talk about but the day I got mugged before we did a live together, Dani, and I was like, I need some time because I was just mugged. Do you know what happened to me when I got mugged and made the mistake? I will never call the cops again if I'm being mugged. I have, there's these alarm things you pull, which people in this live got for me. The first time I was mugged, this was the second time. And so I pulled this alarm thing. It's like a strip you pull out. They're very skinny and small, right? They're not too loud, but this was deterring the person who is still trying to mug me while I am calling the police. And this cop, who's a man, of course, is like, shut that off. Shut that noise off. I'm like, I am being mugged right now. There is a man mugging me. He is 3 feet away from me. That is the only sound deterring him. Do you understand how these alarms work? You can't put the thing back in. It's a strip you pull out. It's also the only sound making this guy think twice about attacking me. He's standing right here. He just pushed me into a fence. And the guy's like, shut it off. Shut it off. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding? I was like, fine. And I just hung up and I was like, I'm just going to run for my life because this is... This is not helpful. Like, this is literally how they treat you. Like, men are the least helpful people in a crisis situation. And the people that I don't know, the psychological profile of people who want to be police, they are not de-escalators. They want a problem.
I say this all the time, and if you ever took like a Psych 101 class, right? I learned this very, very quickly in college. It had to be one of my first psych classes I ever took. And we were looking at psychopathy, right? And then later, as you go on to be able to treat patients and stuff like that, you take these in-depth classes, and there's something called the PCLR. And the PCLR is the psychopathy, the R stands for revised, but it's the psychopathy checklist. R stands for revised. There's new versions of it that come out, right, that are better. And the people that score for psychopathy, right, people in jail and police officers score almost equal with one another because they want power, control, and authoritarianism. The difference usually stands in their environment and where they went with their life, right? Some people end up committing crimes. A lot of that has to do with poverty and environment, right? And then some people go into the police force and they get their power and control that way. But the people that get diagnosed, that have diagnosable levels of psychopathy, being a psychopath in jail, tend to score right on par with police officers.
Man, I took a class, because I wanted to understand, what happened to me in my childhood, because I grew up in a horrifically abusive situation where people were very clearly showing signs of psychopathy. And so in college, this man, he used to be the head of the sex crimes division for the FBI, like the head of the Northwest Sex Crimes Division. He was a professor at my school, and I took courses for FBI profiling courses from him. And that's what the number one thing, he was like, 1 in 3 people in this class have been raped. And med would be like, not me. He's like, you too. He's like, 1 in 3. And he was just like, yeah, and probably assaulted by police. He's like, don't trust police. And we're like, you are a cop. He's like, I wasn't a cop. It's don't trust police. And we're like, what? This man, it scared the shit out of me. It is so true, though. And he would take us through the psychological profiles of police officers and be like, this is how you have to approach them, because they're not normal people. And every time I have ever interacted with a police officer, I think back to that. I'm like, God, he was so right. These people they're insane.
Yeah,
they're truly insane. And that woman, there was one. Sorry, Mandy. There was one
you're
woman.
Good. I'm sorry.
There was one woman in the hallway, a Coeur d'Alene police officer who showed up, and that woman, Dr. Teresa Borenpaul, was like, "You can touch me. Keep these men away from me." And they still are assaulting her. These are not police. These are security guards who would not stop assaulting her. Even when a real police officer was there, and this woman clearly, she actually had empathy, and she was like, what is going on? It's just scary to watch because I've been there.
Yeah, no, so this is sort of it's anecdotal, but I'm watching in real time somebody who's in the police academy here changing, and not for the better. My daughter's boyfriend. So when she met him a year and a half ago, or when they started dating, I really liked the kid. He seemed progressive in thought, seemed really genuine, would leave her little gifts when he was on his way through town, to go to work at night or whatever. Nice kid. Was a year and a half older than my daughter, just good kid. 6 months in, everything seemed okay, but you start to see, they're teenagers, so you start to see sort of the cracks in the relationship. But he still seemed he seemed open to things, he wanted to talk. He enrolls in the police academy 6 months ago or whatever it was. And they'd already been a little fractured, but he still seemed reasonable. This kid has totally flipped the script. Now he comes from a really bad background. He has really bad family ties. He has, he has all the makings of somebody who could be problematic. And now he's going to become a police officer. And I am watching this person be very emotionally abusive. And she's 18. So all I can do is try to talk to her in a way that will convince her that she needs to protect herself and what she needs to do for herself. I can't force her because she's 18 and could run off and live with him because she's under the whole I'm in love with him, But I am literally watching as he is immersing himself in that learning with the people he's around. this absolutely ridiculous power struggle that's happening where he is trying to assert dominance in such weird ways. Even like to the point when we talk to her on the phone and they're together, he in the background, he'll be calling me mom, knowing full well that that's pissing me off. You know, like, or threatening to be like, what if I propose to her? Like, it is fucking wild to see the difference. And every woman I've talked, because every man I talked to is like, put him against the wall, tell him to not. But every woman I talked to said, no, that is absolutely the wrong approach with your 18-year-old daughter and a man she thinks she loves. Like, you know, and I can't get the percentages of cops that abuse their wives out of my head. I can't get the percentages of cops that unalive their partners out of my head as I am watching this unfold. And all I can hold on to is that she's going off to college, and I'm hoping that that will give the space needed for her to get the clarity to let that go. But it is surreal. And so when I see shit like this, not only from a PTSD point of view from my own assault, but like also just from none of the men in the room were doing anything. Like, this was such a great example of how they want to, they claim to be the protectors of women unless it is a woman that they don't think they can control, or a woman that they don't like, or they aren't, you know, whatever. Then they're more than happy to watch that woman be harmed. And it was
almost
just
to 100K. Keep tapping the screen. Tapping is clapping. Sorry, Mandy. If I
no, and it's just that's just like I can't. Like, it is a really surreal. Like, I wish I could even make content about what my daughter's experiencing, but obviously I can't. That's not my story to tell. But from a mother's point of view, it's a very frustrating situation because I'm from the outside have watched this person really change, and it makes me so fucking curious what is happening in that education and what that environment is like that is bringing out the absolute worst in this person. Like, that's scary as shit.
So I think you're doing the right thing, though. You can't force an 18. The more you if you try to pull them apart, you are pushing her to him.
Right. And she trusts me yet. So that's what matters, is that she still trusts me. She'll still talk to me. She'll still confide in me. And I need to keep that open, because the worst things happen when she doesn't have anyone to talk to about it. Because at least I'm there to keep her feeling strong in her resolve to like stand up for herself and that sort of thing. But yeah, don't get me wrong. I'd love to put him against a wall and like physically demand that he back the fuck off. But I also know, like you said, well, at 18, we all think we know everything.
And that's generally, like, look at how much TikTok has changed women's outlook and their worldview and stuff, right? Like, they hear other women saying, like, no, you're not crazy. That's not normal. That's emotional abuse. No, your feelings are correct. Your tingly spidey senses are going off, right? Like, that's correct. That's essentially what you're doing, right, Mandy, is like being the community. Like, if women have community of women around them going, that's not okay. Oh, how did that make you feel? Because that makes me feel like icky. I don't like that. Like, that's what you need, right? Because otherwise, one of the reasons that these people like to isolate you, right, is because they can gaslight you and they can get you to second guess yourself and they can get you to believe that things are normal, right? They can normalize their abuse. But if you have outside voices gently saying, I don't know about that. Ooh, that doesn't sound right. Oh, that sounds like gaslighting, right? That they're going to sit there and they're going to be like, yeah, I thought so. Like, I thought that didn't sound right, but he told me that that was normal, right? So it's just that gentle, consistent voice.
I will say the one thing, and hopefully this will help. I see a lot of people in the comments saying they've been there or they are there. The one thing that seemed to cut through some of it for her is like in a very calm, casual conversation, I said, it doesn't seem like you feel emotionally safe with him. And she's like, what do you mean? I go, can you be your full weirdo self? Can you be in a bad mood? Can you be sad? Can you be silly? Can you emotionally just let your guard down around him? Or do you feel that you have to walk on eggshells and can't really relax? And she sat with it for a little bit, and we talked about some other things, and then she came back to it and said, I never thought of it. I don't feel emotionally safe to just relax. My guard is always up. and she's, needs to think on that and like process that. But it seemed to cut through some of the noise because it wasn't all the buzzwords. It wasn't me trying to like be like, he's a terrible person, but it was rather, can you be your full self, your full weirdo self with this person? Like, are you safe to be upset and know that, even if you're in a fight, he's not going to play dirty, and the answer was no. And so she's sitting with that. She's working through that. But yeah, like you gotta keep that communication happening and hope that it's, getting through. And I think it is. I just think that there's, it's that first love.
TikTok is such a great source of information for women, I think personally. And like, it scares me, especially for like 18-year-old women that like, and as someone like who was abused at such a young age and like over sexualized and essayed, and still it took me until my 30s to recognize to fully embrace like, oh yeah, every instinct I ever had was correct. Why did I ever second guess myself about anything that was going on? It's like women will gaslight themselves in their 20s and be like, oh, well, I thought I was right. I feel like I know what's going on, but people are telling me I don't. So maybe I don't. And it's like, I fully realize now, every pattern I could see as a child was not one time wrong. Every single thing I ever thought was true. And part of like learning that and really grasping that in a healthy way was like because of TikTok. And it's true. Like the minute you're cut off from resources like TikTok, and other women, and like that's one way I can always tell when I'm doing something that is abusive to me is I become very secretive. I can't tell my friends who I'm talking to, like who he is or what he's saying, because I already know what the reaction will be. And when you become secretive and you're not proud of who you're talking to and what they're saying to you, like that is the number one like telltale sign for me that like, yeah, this isn't healthy.
Right. Yeah. And I think TikTok, that's been great for me too. Like people are always shocked to find out that I've always been on the left. I've always been very progressive, but I was silent because of the household situation I was in until I found TikTok, until the trauma of my dad suddenly losing his life because of COVID, until I finally stopped letting people tell me not to talk about it. And suddenly I found my voice because I feel like I always was active, but just never vocal because I had a partner who wouldn't let me be. I was told basically to shut up about it. Don't talk about politics. Because that person also was on the other side. It was a divided household. And so it was always at the silence was always at the expense of my voice and well-being. It was never just to keep the peace. It was to keep me under some sort of control. And then I found TikTok and I found other women like yourselves that made me feel like I'm not alone in this. And it's safe. It's okay to speak up and speak out. I knew in my situation, I want to be clear. I knew in my situation that I was going to be safe physically and emotionally. There was some emotional shit, but like I was not in danger if I started speaking up and speaking out in the same way I know some of you may be. So please do not take this as like risk your safety in your home. But yeah, and it was TikTok. It was women speaking on these things that I otherwise felt nobody ever talked about. Nobody ever had the same thoughts as me or like was on the same side or lived in a divided household until I found out, oh shit, a lot of women do. And so, yeah.
Someone said this in the comments, but it is so true. Like I've had so many therapists, God, but some of the best ones they've always, like if I would treat myself like I would treat you guys, like I would be in such a better place. Like, like the things I will allow people to say to me, the things I will allow people to do to me. If someone did it to Dani, like I would kick them in the face. It's so different because what we will accept for ourselves, what we believe we deserve is oftentimes so different than what we want for other people we love. And it's like, if I could keep that same energy I keep for my friends and family, for myself, God, I would be in such a better place. I'm like, you deserve this, but they don't.
Yeah, it's that like when that inner mean girl won't shut the hell up, but you're like, if that inner mean girl was talking to Dani or you, like, I'm gonna throw hands. But in my head, I can be calling myself all kinds of shit that I shouldn't.
Think about it. Nobody abuses me more than I abuse myself. And that is true. And like, trust me, I've had some real abusers. And like, the things I am saying to myself are terrifying. And then like, but once you do like internal family systems therapy, you know, because I'm really messed up, you know. And then like they helped me understand like, oh, that's, you know, that's the voice of your abuser. You know, you like take on that voice of the narcissist and it becomes you, like this monster in my head that is, it's like, it used to be my mother who was external and now it's like living inside me in the back corner of my head being like, you deserve this. This is what you deserve.
I have in my group of friends, we have this like saying, like I have a kind of a core group of AFAB friends, right? And we kind of all have this saying, like when one of us is in one of those like internal spirals or we're feeling like shit to ourselves. And like maybe you say some of that to your friend, you're like, you know, I'm doing this or like I'm being lazy or whatever. My friends will be like, don't be mean to my friend. Why are you talking to my friend like that? Like, why are you talking about my friend like that? And they're talking to me, right? They're talking to me, talking to myself. But it's a reminder to be like, hey, I love you. You're my friend and I think you're great. And like, I wouldn't let someone else say that about you. I wouldn't say that about you. Like, stop being mean to my friend, right? And it's just a reminder that we wouldn't say this to our friends. Why are we saying it to ourselves?
So true. God, I need to remind myself. I just got back into therapy, so like I'm getting the reminder. It's always good if like you ever get out of therapy. It's always good to just go back for a while because it's true. You forget after a while of how you need to treat yourself. It's good to just have a reminder. Therapy is great. Anyways, but yeah, I think that's why we're all so captivated by this story of Dr. Teresa Borenthal, because as educated women or as, you know, like as men who care about women, as people or who have children, like you think like this could so easily be one of us or someone we know. And it brings up so many, as someone who had to live in Idaho for 5 years, like this brings up so many like PTSD memories for me of being silenced.
And even just on that, like being silenced, like not being silent, like I love what Mandy said about like, can you be your weird self, right? So I'm very neurodivergent. Obviously, I love and study AFAB healthcare, right? But like we all have our own interest, like, so two of my outside interests are like birds and dinosaurs.
I was going to say the dinosaurs. Birds are dinosaurs, Dani.
Birds are dinosaurs. So that's why they're my two interests, right? Pterosaurs are not dinosaurs, just in case anyone wanted to know. But birds and dinosaurs, right? So like, be your weird fucking self. So not only does my partner allow me to be like, fuck men and this, and they're like, yup, absolutely. But like, if I'm stressed, or something's going on, or I'm like, you know, I just need to sit down and relax. My partner's like, shall we watch a lecture about Tyrannosaurus Rex? And I'm like, should we? Oh my God, yes. And like, they know that that's my thing, right? They know that I will sit down and like stim and like get into and it is literally a lecture, right? It is a college lecture about like the Tyrannosaurus skull. And it is not interesting to anybody else. But if my partner, probably anybody else, but if my partner sees I'm stressed, or like if we're at the airport or something and I'm stressed, my partner will look at me and be like, would you like to tell me about Quetzalcoatlus? And I'm like, the pterosaurs and the Asdarchids? Yes, I absolutely would. Have someone embrace your fucking weirdo-ness, right? Like not just tolerate it, but embrace it. And that's what that looks like. That looks like someone like knowing the things that calm you. Even if it's not something that interests them, they'll let me rattle off about it for like 20 minutes. Right? Because they know that it's calming me, or they know that it like brings me joy, right? Like have someone that fully embraces your fucking weird.
But it's so true. I need to find a real partner. I want one. No, but it is true because I don't know if I've ever dated. I always, and it's like I can see my own unhealthy patterns. Like I know either I'm finding my dad or I'm finding my mom. Everyone I've ever dated is like a borderline or narcissist. You know what Like, I could see the pattern so clearly, and I still, and I don't think I've ever been able to be myself around anyone. I do think I need to work on, except for you guys, like now, that's the best thing about getting older and learning shit, is that now I finally, through TikTok, it is the first time in my life where I had friends, I was like, oh, I guess I can be myself now, and it's okay. It's okay not to be okay. It's okay to be weird. It's okay to have our group chats. It's okay to have a nervous breakdown every day. It's okay to post your threatening text messages to your mother at 9 a.m. because she voted for Trump and you're going to be kicked off your health care and you hate her. Like, everything's okay now. And that's the best thing about finding real community, is finding people that accept you for not being okay.
Yeah, and remember, like, that whole, we all did that, and I saw a couple people in the comments be like, it took me until I was 25, it took me until I was 30, right? Remember, we don't date necessarily who's good for us or who we need. Until you unpack some of those layers, you date what's familiar and comfortable, because what's familiar is comfortable. What's familiar is known. So if your mom was a narcissist, if your dad was abusive, if he emotionally invalidated you, if he emotionally abused you, if he called you stupid or whatever, you might put up with a partner that emotionally invalidates you all the time, or that like devalues your opinion all the time, because it's familiar, and familiar means comfortable. You're going to gear, especially as you're younger, you're going to go towards what you know, because familiarity is comfortability. But if you were raised in a household that was not an emotionally intelligent household, or that wasn't a healthy household, that means that what's familiar to you is not healthy. It's not good or healthy relationship dynamics. So you have to work through and unpack all of that before you can gear towards the people that are actually good for you, right?
I know. And that's what Mark in the comments said. We date to the level of our own psychological health. And that's why, just know that if you are with someone who's abusing you and gaslighting you, and like, trust me, the amount of psychological papers I've read, like, I basically should be a psychologist by now. Cause I mean, I've read thousands, and it is so true. Like, never let someone that has chosen to be in a relationship with you accuse you of being crazy. You are at the same level of crazy. Like, that surprise, like, science doesn't lie, you're nuts too. Like, nice try though, weirdo. Like, it's like the amount of times someone's be like, you're nuts, really? Then why the hell are you here? Like, I love men. They're always like the perpetual will to like convince us there's something wrong with us. It fascinates me 24 hours a day. It's like, it's almost like it's them. It's almost like it is. I don't know.
Someone in the comments said earlier, every accusation is a confession. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty accurate.
So, oh my God. Like, if there, I say this, like, I was made for this Trump administration and to watch the fall of democracy because of my mother. Like, I would sit there and be screamed at as a child, and I would just think, like, man, everything you're accusing me of is what I've been watching you do. It's the weirdest thing. Like, it's like they're screaming a list of their own confessions and pointing at you. Like, that is what narcissists do. They're like, here's all the things I'm guilty of, and my full-time job is to project that shit onto you and convince you it's you. And that is true. Like it's literally, like you were saying, Dani, they're screaming waste, fraud, and abuse, and it's that sheriff who is literally saying he's disabled and a resident of Los Angeles and is living in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, beating the shit out of women, collecting a second mother effing paycheck. And someone said, I love when you call people weirdos. Like, the number one thing I've always said that, and I love how Gen Z has like co-opted that term. Like, there's no bigger insult to Gen Z than just be like, you're a weirdo, because it's true. Like, that is why I say it. Like, these people are all weirdos. Like, don't bother getting crazy with the insults. Hey, you're just weird. Like, the way you're projecting onto me is weird. The way you're insecure, it's weird. Like, maybe work on that. Some days I do love that we just kind of go off on tangents. Can I, did you guys hear about the 11-year-old girl who unalived herself?
Yes.
Yep.
Horrific. Absolutely horrific.
I can't deal with this stuff. And then I was also looking, I mean, I don't know, And not just that this girl, this 11-year-old, basically, in case you don't know, her name's oh my God, I'm going to get it wrong. And I don't want to get her name wrong. It's Jocelyn. Ugh. Oh, sorry. My presentation closed. Sorry. I just need to re-pull this up. It's Jocelyn something, but she's 11 years old. She basically was bullied over and over, told her parents were undocumented and that she was going to be caught and be the reason that her parents were deported. So she unalived herself. And it's so horrible. And then I'm also looking at this other story of these kids, which it reminds me very much of Arizona. And it was in Las Cruces. It's in New Mexico. So it's in the Southwest, and it just tracks. Like, if you're within 100 miles of the border, I don't know if you guys know this, but you have no rights, basically.
Yep.
Like,
I remember when that passed.
Yeah, there are like checkpoints at the 100-mile marks of the border. And when you have to cross inside them, like, you could be an American citizen doing whatever, but you have no rights. And they basically pulled over a school bus of children, right, who were going to like a athletic event. And sometimes anyone knows this who used to be a teacher, you're not always on a school bus, right? They charter buses sometimes that actually have air conditioning when you're traveling far. So it was an unmarked bus, and they harassed all of these children and accused them of being illegals because the bus driver didn't speak English and couldn't communicate. And this is Jocelyn. This is the girl. She's no longer alive. This is an 11-year-old girl. This is a 6th grader. It reminds me so much of myself, who unalived herself because she was worried about being the cause of her parents being deported. And I loved this video. This is a state Texas senator. Oh, sorry.
This is a message to Donald Trump. Not just a few days ago, an 11-year-old little girl in Gainesville, Texas, her name was Jocelyn Rojo, took her life. She killed herself because she was being tormented at school and bullied by kids that said that her parents were undocumented and ICE was going to come for her and for them and they were going to be deported. She took her life. I want you to remember that. Her name is Jocelyn Rojo. Her death is on your hands. You've managed to divide this country in such a way that people on your side of the aisle just hate anybody with a Hispanic surname. I want you to remember that, you sick son of a bitch, Jocelyn Rojo. Our death is on your hands. That's what you've done to this country. You've pitted people against each other, and that's just wrong. The only way we can survive as a nation is when we stand together on things that make sense and work. Work towards a better good for all of us, not just a few. Jocelyn Rojo. Remember her name when you go to bed tonight.
I love that man.
Yeah, this story just eats away at me because a lot of us, especially AFAB people, one of the hardest times is that like 5th, 6th, 7th grade. That's usually when young girls are starting to be sexualized. That's usually when they're starting their periods, right? It's already a really, really difficult time. And bullying amps up in that time period. And what was happening here was they were telling her that they were bullying her and telling her that they were going to call ICE on her family, that they were going to call immigration on her parents, and that her parents were going to be taken away, that she was they bullied her, right? And then this happens. So we know that bullying can lead to, I'm trying to be really careful with my words here. We know that bullying can lead to SI, and I'm just going to warn everybody, I'm going to talk about SI here for a second. The I stands for ideation. So there's a theory of self-unaliving, right? I'm trying to be really careful with my words, y'all. And it's a really well-studied theory, and it's a theory of burdensomeness. And what it says is that a lot of people will experience SI, ideation, right? A lot of people will have thoughts of wanting to hurt themselves. But what leads you to actually act on something? And what we find is it's a combination of wanting to hurt yourself, right? Feeling that hopelessness, and burdensomeness, what we call feelings of burdensomeness. I feel like I'm a burden to somebody else. And it's that combined feeling of depression, the hopelessness, I don't want to be here anymore. A lot of people have that feeling, right? A lot of people have the feeling of I don't want to be here anymore, but they don't act on it. So what leads people to act on it? Increased feelings of burdensomeness. I'm a burden. That's what that message is from those bullies. Helplessness goes along with the feelings of like, I don't want to be here anymore, right? There's nothing that I can do to change my situation. Helplessness, hopelessness. But we have to combine that with I'm a burden to people. I feel like me being here is a burden. So the people there are bullying her and telling her like, it's going to be your fault. Your family's going to get deported and it's going to be your fault. ICE is going to show up to the school, right? That is increasing those feelings of burdensomeness. So then we have those two things added together and somebody takes their life, right? Because you at some level have also convinced yourself that it will be better if you are not here because your beliefs about you being a burden on the people that are here have become so great, right? And you don't have anything to counteract that in that moment. Like, this is heartbreaking. This is an 11-year-old girl, y'all. Like, horrific.
So like I think about, and especially because she's Hispanic, like we talk about all the time, like when you come from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, like that's why studies show Hispanic children enter puberty earlier. Like I had that issue as well. Like as an 11-year-old, I looked the same as I did when I was 11, when I was 18. Like I was 5'10", like same body as an 11-year-old. Like you deal with that. And it was like, yeah, I was terrorized pretty much from 11 to 14. Like that was the danger zone. I mean, I was terrorized before that, but then like school was my sanctuary for a long time. And then it became like another war zone, like, so I totally get like what it's like. And when you truly get to the point where you believe that, like I'm a problem. And if I go away, like that is the solution. To be an 11-year-old child and be 100% sure, right? Because it takes, I think it's actually, I like to describe it this way. Just like I said, I've read a lot of psychological studies. I have SI, like due to the nature of my like mental health diagnosis. I actually think it's healthier to talk about that, to be able to say like, these are thoughts I have, like I'm not going to act on them. That's very different, but it's things that pop into my head. Sometimes I think when it's not safe to talk about that stuff, that's when it becomes like really, it's like rolling around in your head and it becomes like really scary for people. But like there's a line, right? And it's like, that's what it is. When you convince yourself fully, because I used to get to that point when I was younger, when, where you are convinced I am the problem, right? Like my mom would hammer me, everything would be better if you weren't here. All of my problems are because of you, So I understand when you get to a place in your mind where you're convinced I am the problem. If I was not here, everyone else's life would be better. That's a terrifying thing for an 11-year-old.
And also, like, we're saying this, I was in a very similar place as Felice. Like, that was around 11 was the time that I had the most SI and was most at risk of doing that, right? For very similar reasons. I entered puberty very early, grew boobs, and now all of a sudden you're a woman, even though yesterday you were a little girl that nobody took seriously, right? And now grown ass men are like whistling at you and hitting on you daily when you're walking home from grade school, right? I think we can all feel this, but we're saying this now as adult women, right? You have no skills as an 11-year-old, y'all. You have no skills. You have no coping skills. You have no critical thinking skills to think through that. So like what Felice is saying now, like I also have CPTSD. I get some SI occasionally, but now I have skills. Now I have experience, right? Now I can sit here and say, these are feelings that you're having. These are thoughts that you are having. You don't have to give them power. You can reach out to your friends, right? You are not a burden. This is a story you are telling yourself. And if you reach out, other people will counter this story for you so quickly, right? You don't have the skills at 11. You just have hopelessness. And I cannot, and she spent 5 days in the hospital before she died, y'all. She was in the hospital for 5 days before she died. Like, This is absolutely horrific. I can't. This is
completely preventable.
Completely preventable. Totally.
Why? I'm not saying no one's covering this story, but nobody's covering this story. Let's be honest.
I feel like content about it feels like it's being suppressed, because I know my content overall does fairly well lately, but that video took everything. It really just did not get off the ground. It pretty much hit the first hour, did okay, and then it plummeted. Like the app just is not showing people that story. And I understand that the topic is, can be triggering and is difficult, but her story needs to be heard because it's preventable. And there's more happening every day that's going to scare these kids, and they don't have the development to be able to cognitively deal with it. When you think about, RFK Jr. coming for SSRIs and talking about taking people off their medication. I am somebody who does deal with high functioning depression and anxiety. I have my medication. I also have ADHD. So remembering to take my medication is in and of itself its own battle every day. But if you tell me you're going to take away my medications, having occasionally been off them for just short periods of time and seeing how that will completely throw my body into chaos, not to mention a really bad depressive episode about 6 months ago when I myself was like, I don't need these meds. Yes, I do. I can't imagine being a teenager who's in that dark place and they finally get the care they need. They finally find someone, whether that's trans resources, whether that's, depression resources, anxiety resources, because we see kids are becoming more and more anxious. The idea that you want to just take that stuff away. And even if he's not going to have the ability to actually do it, there's enough press and enough talk about him doing it that kids who cannot think beyond what they're just seeing at face value don't understand all of the deep intricacies of it and how complicated it would be and how unlikely it's going to be. But they're just seeing hey, or maybe their mom or their dad is on medication and they know their mom and dad when they're not on that medication. And now they're oh, they're going to take that away. That's terrifying. I was just thinking about a friend of mine who talks all about his schizophrenia and how that's his content. He's an incredible guy, such a great person to follow. His name is Cody Green. And immediately my thought is he would not be able to function, let alone survive, if not for the medical intervention that he has. And yet we keep hearing about how the new head of Health and Human Services wants to take that all away. You take that with deportation. You take that with trans and LGBTQ and AFAB folk. I can't imagine being a kid right now. It's hard enough being an adult.
So that, Mandy, I remember to take my meds when I'm something's wrong with me. I'm drawing. What the hell is happening?
And then I do take them.
Tingling. I need my meds.
When I do take them regularly, suddenly I'm I feel really good. And then, it's people underestimate the
eyes are watering, tears are pouring out. I'm I must not have taken my meds for 2 days. I must be withdrawing from something.
Yeah.
What is it?
I always joke.
But think about it truly. That 11-year-old is actually pretty smart, right? She is smart enough. And I was very smart at 11. She's thinking I'm being told my parents are undocumented. I'm going to lead ICE to them, right? They're going to come to schools. They're going to find me. I'm going to be the reason the people I love get taken. So I'm going to stop that. I'm going to cry. That is the most heartbreaking thing.
Yeah, we do go ahead, please. Sorry.
No, that's it. It's just heartbreaking.
Well, and Felice had mentioned that girls of color, so particularly Black girls and Hispanic girls, are more likely to hit puberty earlier, right? Early, I can't remember. It's something pubertorial onset. I can't remember what we call it in the research, right? But that's also when we, I do SI evaluations all the time, right? And I know it sounds scary when someone tells you I'm having these thoughts, but then you evaluate those thoughts, right? Is path warm? If anyone wants to Google that, those are a really good starting point to ask people about their SI. If someone comes to you and you're I'm not really sure what to do with this information, and always take it seriously, right? But just someone having those thoughts isn't necessarily a huge red flag to me, right? People can come to me and say, I'm having these thoughts, and then I'm going to evaluate it. right? Because I'm a professional and I can evaluate it, right? But one of those things that I take into consideration that's a risk factor, particularly for young girls. Now, young boys are going to be different, right? It hits at a different age, but did they hit puberty young? If they already if they're in that danger age range, right, of like 10 to 13, did they hit puberty young? Because that's an additional risk factor for translating thoughts into behavior, right? Well, why? Because early puberty isn't a good thing, right? This is something that's happening as a result, usually of environmental factors, poverty, food. There's a lot of different reasons, right? But we do know that starting puberty early and having all of those hormonal fluctuations, when we are already seeing kids go through a hard time, we're already seeing kids be bullied, right? You're at that age range, that is an increased risk factor, right? So I'm not saying that this happened to her, right? But I'm saying, look at the totality of this case. If you are a family of immigrants, you might be afraid to approach somebody for help. You might be afraid to take your kid to therapy, right? And then on top of that, you have to evaluate that this is a child that is Latina, right? And you have to evaluate whether or not she started puberty. You have to evaluate where the hormones are, because that means a lot. You can't even get that evaluation if parents are too scared to bring their kid in. And then if the parents knew something was going on, but they were too afraid to bring their kid in, now as a parent, you might blame yourself, right? I hate to think that those parents are sitting at home saying we should have done something, but we were too scared to. And I'm not trying to make assumptions, but that's a realistic outcome of this, right? Maybe the parents wanted to do something, knew she was sad, knew she was being bullied, but they were too scared, right? Like, there's so many factors that interplay in this, but like Mandy said, all of this was completely preventable.
Absolutely. And I just want to say, I saw people in the comments are talking or discussing Joy Reid being fired from MSNBC, right? If you don't know who Joy Reid is, and she's a Black woman, she's a Harvard graduate. She's amazing. She's a genius, right? Best friends with Rachel Maddow. I've seen her speak live before. Yeah, it's not just, there's a lot of changes happening at MSNBC. I was going to talk about this tomorrow, but I think since people seem curious about this, cause like I was going to talk about it on the People's Receipts when like there's a larger audience, cause I think it's so important. But like, that's one of the reasons I love Rachel Maddow, because like she has that like, fuck you money and power. You know, like she runs MSNBC and she is the main draw there, so she could say whatever she wants. And she does all the time, right? Like if you remember, like when they were going to hire what is that woman's name? She used to be the chair of the RNC, and she's like related to Mitt Romney, Ronna Romney something. She has like a hyphenated name. She was the former RNC chair. They were gonna hire her, and she like helped like perpetuate like that Trump said the election. Romney McDaniels. Thank you, Ronna McDaniels. Yeah, I could not remember. McDaniel. Yeah, and they were going to hire at MSNBC, and Rachel Maddow just for 10 minutes was like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, this is embarrassing. She went on a full-on, like, rant on her show, and she's like, she's 5 days a week for the first 100 days of Trump's presidency, and then she is going back to just Mondays, and they basically fired Joy Reid, who is the smartest person there. But yeah, let me show you this video that I didn't screen record it, so I just have to show you from X. But why is it like this though? I don't know.
I'm going to take a little point of personal privilege here just for a moment, if it is okay with you. You may have already heard about changes that have been announced at MSNBC over the last couple of days. The new president of our network made it official today. Some of our shows are moving to different time slots or expanding or going away altogether. In prime time, just so you know, I am here 5 days a week for the first 100 days of Trump's presidency, as planned. And as planned, I will go back to just Mondays after that. That is not changing. What is changing is that the show, Alex Wagner Tonight, is not coming back at 9 after the first 100 days. Instead, Alex will be a senior political analyst for MSNBC, and Jen Psaki will start hosting the 9 p.m. hour all the other nights except for Mondays. So that's a big change. An even bigger programming change is at 7 p.m. Eastern, where Joy Reid's show, The Readout, ended tonight. And Joy is not taking a different job in the network. She is leaving the network altogether. And that is very, very, very hard to take. I am 51 years old.
I love Rachel Maddow, and I wish I could marry her. But that's just a side note. But I just want to say, like, yeah, someone in the comments said I love Jen Psaki. We all love Jen Psaki. The point is that they are systematically firing all the minorities at MSNBC and terrorizing the producers that work for them behind the scenes. So while Jen Psaki is a communications expert, she is the best press secretary I think the White House has ever seen. And I actually, as someone that works in marketing and advertising, I admire her immensely. Like, she is exponentially talented. The point is that they are erasing brown and black people in an effort to capitulate and to do what Trump wants. And so it's not about like who's is or is not talented. It's about the erasure of brown and black people. Like, right? Like Mehdi Hassan was ousted. Like every brown or black person has disappeared from programming, and the producers that work for them are basically being asked to reapply for their jobs. But no one's questioning if Jen Psaki is or is not good at her job.
I have been gainfully employed since I was 12. And I have had so many different kinds of jobs, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. But in all of the jobs I have had, in all of the years I have been alive, there is no colleague for whom I have had more affection and more respect than Joy Reid. I love everything about her. I have learned so much from her. I have so much more to learn from her. I do not want to lose her as a colleague here at MSNBC. And personally, I think it is a bad mistake to let her walk out the door. It is not my call, and I understand that, but that's what I think. I will tell you, it is also unnerving to see that on a network where we've got two non-white hosts in primetime, both of our non-white hosts in primetime are losing their shows, as is Katie Fang on the weekend. And that feels worse than bad, no matter who replaces them.
If you don't know who Katie Fang is, she is a mother effing genius. She's an Asian former federal prosecutor who is a genius. Katie Fang deserves a primetime show. And so this is what I'm saying. This is the complete erasure of minority groups from MSNBC.
That feels indefensible, and I do not defend it.
Someone asked, is she going to get in trouble for saying this? Rachel Maddow could say anything Rachel Maddow wants to say. And even if she left, Rachel Maddow could do anything she wants to do, whatever she wants to do it, because Rachel Maddow's audience follows Rachel Maddow. Like, she is the sole driver of viewership for MSNBC. If they fire her, she doesn't care. Her audience will just follow her. She's a genius. It's so funny. The title of this video, the person who posted is like, Rachel Maddow has that fuck you money. Like, cause she could just go off and be like, I fucking hate it here. Like, they're firing everyone.
Yeah.
But there's just one other piece of it that you should know.
Sorry, go ahead.
From your side.
I feel like...
No. I watched this last night and just was in awe of just her candor. But yeah, I'll let you play it.
Yeah, she's like, fire. She's like, she does not care. She's like, here's what's going on behind the scenes.
Of the TV screen, you will mostly see changes in terms of who's in the anchor chair. And actually, everybody who's going to be in anchor chairs from here on out are great colleagues and great at what they do. And you are not going to be disappointed in who's on our air and what you're going to be seeing. But one thing you cannot necessarily see is that the people who get our shows on the air, they're really being put through the ringer. Dozens of producers and staffers, including some who are among the most experienced and most talented and most specialist producers in the building, are facing being laid off. They're being invited to reapply for new jobs. That has never happened at this scale in this way before when it comes to programming changes, presumably because it's not the right way to treat people, and it's inefficient and it's unnecessary, and it kind of drops the bottom out of whether or not people feel like this is a good place to work, and so we don't generally do things that way. Maybe all of our folks, including most of the people who are getting this very show on the air right now, maybe they will all get new jobs here, and I hope they do, but in the meantime, being put in this kind of limbo, the anxiety and the discombobulation is off the charts at a time when this job already is extra stressful and difficult. It is not news for me to tell you that the press and freedom of the press are under attack in a way that is really, it's a big deal for our country. It's very visceral for us here. I know that the business of the press is not an easy thing, and I know that no job is forever. But I think I'm safe in saying for all of us anchors who you know through the TV, please know that what pains us the most is not what happens to us. It is what happens to our coworkers on whom we depend and who you don't necessarily know, but we respect and love them and depend on them. And did I mention we respect them? This is a difficult time in the news business, but it does not need to be this difficult. We welcome new voices to this place and some familiar voices to new hours. It's going to be great, honestly, and we want to grow and succeed and reach more people than ever and be resilient and stay here forever. I also believe, and I bet you believe, that the way to get there is by treating people well. Finding good people, good colleagues, doing good work with them, and then having their back.
Anyways, yeah, I think it's a crime what is happening to Joy Reid. I'm going to play a piece of Joy Reid's tomorrow because, she's, as a historical researcher, the way she ties history and, if you don't know, Joy Reid just recently wrote a book about Medgar Evers, right? And the civil rights movement. Medgar Evers was one of, the main three who were assassinated, alongside Martin Luther King, in the civil rights movement. She is a genius, and it is a crime that she has been ousted, as it was when Mehdi Hassan left, and it's the same thing with Katie Fang. Yeah, and actually Loris from Finland, who knows, if you don't know, Midas Touch, they sent an open letter when she was fired, and they, because there's a whole movement of independent journalists forming on Substack, Jim Acosta is one, and saying boycott the mainstream media, because these are moves to pacify Donald Trump, to keep to keep from being sued by Donald Trump, and to improve ratings. So I do hope that whatever Joy Reid does, she will be successful at. But I thought Katie was on Saturday. No, her show has been canceled. Katie Fang's show has been canceled, as well as Joy Reid's, and as well as Alex Wagner. Every brown person has been erased from MSNBC due to bad ratings.
I think it's so interesting because we were saying Rachel has that money that she has that fuck you money, I don't give a shit money, right? And that's true, and I think that's great. It's still women doing this. Just like we pointed out at the beginning of this, men are not protectors. It is the women standing up, and it is the women saying, I have this position in power. I am one of the few women with the fuck you money. So I'm gonna use it. And the men, silent. Where you at? Right? I'm not saying no man has stood up. I'm not saying no man has stood up.
Now is not the time to name the one man who has been fired.
That's what I'm saying.
Jesus Christ.
So I do agree that there are some good people out there, right? But bulk majority, it is women. It is women of color, right? That are standing up and saying, fuck this, right? We're not going to go. And I have seen more men than I fucking care to. We are all sick of it. I have seen so many men fall and fawn, right? Men are fawning right now. Men, one of my, oh my God, Stephen A. Smith. Look, if you watch sports at all on ESPN, you know who Stephen A. Smith is. He's really loud. He's always yelling. Sometimes I like what he says. Sometimes I don't. That man has fawned for Donald Trump so hard since the election, and he was pro-Harris, right? And then as soon as the election happened, he's like, well, I regret standing up for Harris. I regret voting for her. And he has come out to be like this right-wing supporter of Donald. Like, men are falling all over themselves right now to fawn for Donald Trump. Like, it's disgusting.
No, I'm not I totally agree with you, because I follow Stephen A. Harris. I'm fascinated by what he was doing, the support for Kamala, and then the flip. He is back. The last 2 weeks, he has actually, listen, I want to play you this clip of Steve, because now he's like realizing like, oh wait, I made a mistake. These people are insane. So now he's actually yelling again. It's like he has a complete turn, and now he's back to be like, oh wait, these people are insane, never mind. Like, what's wrong with you?
At this point, you have no integrity, right? The men that flip-flop, because we've seen a lot of that too. We've seen men flip-flopping, but like, oh well, I'm for like Facebook guy, somebody help me.
Mark Zuckerberg.
Thank you. I love the fact that I forgot his name. God, I love that.
He's such a loser.
Loser. Zuckerberg has done the same thing, right? Like, he's flip-flopped on some stuff before. Like, John Fetterman, great example, right? You are weak. I'm glad that you're flipping back, right? But you're fucking weak, and I don't trust your conviction. I don't think you have any morals and values. I think you are fawning for whoever's power you can get the most adjacency to. Like, have some fucking morals and some conviction to stand on. Right? Like, the fact that you're supposed to stand on your convictions even when it hurts you. That's when it matters, right? When you lose viewers or you're afraid of losing your position or whatever. Like, the flip-flopping, disgusting.
They all have moments of misogyny, right? Like, none of these men are screaming, why are women being fired? Why are women being silenced? Do not fawn for men. They do not fawn for you. I could name hundreds of instances where Don Lemon has shat on women. You can look up the clips of Don Lemon shitting on women, right? Not always. Sometimes he appears to be an ally, sometimes not. That's what we're saying. So when you say, oh, but Don Lemon, no, I can find you 100 clips of Don Lemon being a misogynist. So that is the truth. Men will never stand up for you when the going gets tough. And it fascinates me to watch women fawn for men on TikTok too. Male TikTok creators who are horrible people, who are fake allies to women, who women literally support their fake allyship careers on TikTok and will defend men who they have never met and don't know from another person who I guarantee you are horrible people. Pretending to care about women to make a living. When the going gets tough, they will never be there for you. That's what we are saying. When Joy Reid was fired, who risked, everything? Rachel Maddow to sit there and say publicly for 10 minutes, fuck this. And not just what's happening publicly to Joy Reid, but the actual people who are producing these shows that are making sure they are brought to you every day are being terrorized. That's bravery.
And
it's hard to say the truth.
Don Lemon also very famously, and look, not a Nikki Haley fan, right? Definitely not a Nikki Haley fan. And also, if you as a liberal man rely back on your misogyny to put down women regardless of their political affiliation, I'm still judging you, because what that means is you will be so quick to weaponize misogyny for your benefit, right? You can pick Nikki Haley apart for a million things, right? But Don Lemon came out and said Nikki Haley's not a real presidential candidate because she's not a woman in her prime, because she was 51 years old. And then after that happened, there was this windfall of women being like, Don Lemon's terribly sexist. He's horrible. If you see him in staff meetings, he's awful. There were all these texts coming out about how he was making fun of female coworkers in sexist ways. If you are a good man at the face, but you are quick to weaponize misogyny when it benefits you, you are no fucking better than the other men that you're trying to pretend you're separate from.
Someone just said, I agree with Dawn. Guess what? Blocked. Cool. You agree with misogyny. Oh, that's so cool. I am so shocked that a woman would side with someone who is shitting on a woman. We will all eventually be 50 years old. You will all be a woman who is past your prime, who will be said, oh, no one cares. She's old now. She's of no use to the patriarchy. Let's shit on her now. That will be all of us.
And Harris was over 51 years old. Donald Trump's in his 80s. No one was sitting there saying, oh, he's past his prime, right? Most of our presidents have been over 51 years old. Most of our
Trump smells like rotting cheese. And I'm not saying that. I'm saying literally the Capitol Hill blogs, and I'm not talking about Democrats. These are not leftists. These are Republicans who work pages on Capitol Hill, who work for Republicans, saying, like, you can't hold your breath long enough. Trump is literally rotting. His flesh is rotting. He smells so bad. And still people love him. But Nikki Haley's 50 years old and still looks damn good and is past her prime because Don Lemon said, mother F him.
If you want to attack a political candidate, right, and you don't agree with them, there are plenty of ways you can, like Nikki Haley has some really shitty views. Attack those. Those are valid things.
She's awful.
She's horrible, right? Like those are valid things to attack. I totally agree with that, right? I agree with Don that Nikki Haley's not a good candidate. Right? But I'm not going to say it's because she's a woman past her prime. And by the way, just like we were just saying, you're all going to be 50 someday. You're all going to be like past your prime, whatever. If she was younger, they would have said she was too young. If she was 35, they would have said she doesn't have any experience. She doesn't know what she's doing. What is she doing? She's only 35. You as a woman will never win. Only one side has goalposts in this game. Your goalposts in a patriarchy are made to keep moving. Right? You're not supposed to win. Quit playing the fucking game.
Be like, AOC, she's too young. She's a bartender. That one day she'll be too old. You can be, oh, she's too quiet. Like, she's too timid. She's too stupid. She's too loud. She's too fat. She's too skinny. There is no, she's a slut. She's a prude. There is no way to ever motherfucking win with these people. Stop trying and stop giving your money to men. Like, truly, we sit here every day on the show with 282 followers. We are by far more educated, more intelligent than every male creator on this app.
Computers.
Truly. I watch women give their money to men that do not give a shit if they live or die, and never will.
Y'all, the amount of men, like, it is absolutely insane to me, and it's probably one of the things that drives me. There's something called the gender credibility gap, and it's a real thing. You can Google it. It exists in research. The gender credibility gap says, does it mean that we don't believe women no matter what? No. It means we believe it less because a woman said it. We trust it less because a woman said it. And as a professional, right, someone who is literally an expert in women's health, the amount of men that couldn't even tell you that women pee out of a separate hole, who feel fully confident in standing up in my lectures or when I'm teaching or even just on the internet to say, you don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, cool. What was the last biology education you had? And it was like when they were 17 and in high school. These men fully and completely believe they know more than you do with your whole ass doctorate degree. Shit you not, they really do. So, like, it's maddening that you can literally be one of the national experts on something, and men will be like, I think you're wrong, and it's because I'm a man. Like, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck about men's opinions anymore. I don't care. I just don't care.
That is why I stopped debating. It's not up for debate. I know for a fact I'm smarter than every male creator on this app. I am 100% sure. You could say that makes me a narcissist. I also know I'm not. I have effective empathy. I'm just sure about who I am and what I know. And it's no longer up for debate. Like, me debating men is charity. Occasionally, once or twice a week, I do a couple hours of charity. That's what I call it, because it's me educating literal dumbasses. It is painful to me, and it's a waste of this beautiful brain in my head. So if you want to know, I just block people now who piss me off. If any man comes into a live, I verbally attack them until they either shut up or I block them. It's because I'm tired of having my time and my brain wasted by men. I'm tired of watching women on this app support men who are literal idiots. Literal idiots. Think about it truly. The male creators you like, are they intelligent? Are they? Are they as smart? Are they?
And like Kristen just said, debating is free education. It's free education. People pay me a lot of money to come do lectures, right? Or to come teach at a conference or something like that. If you want that, pay to come to the conference, right? I teach at feminist conferences all the time. I teach at very sex positive conferences all the time. Stuff that's very much about, like, you know, sexual freedom, autonomy. Come to one of these conferences, pay your money, come to the conference, talk to me there when I'm getting paid, right? But if I'm debating you on the internet, number one, I'm not getting paid for my time. Number two, I'm providing you a free education that I paid a lot of money for. So, like, block. These men are not entitled to your time, nor are they entitled to a free education, but they sure as shit think they are.
A motherfucking man. And again, yes, and I think K-Red said one is, but otherwise no. Exactly. I'm not saying, and like, facts still matter is one. Like, he is a man I support on the internet. But like, the point is, if there is a male creator worth supporting on the internet, they will be outspoken supporters of women, right? Even when women disagree with them, they will support women. They will put women above themselves. They will amplify women's voices, right? They will have no ego.
People are saying, like,
which ones answered you, Victoria? I just answered the question. What do you mean? Like,
there are a few. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying there are so few male creators that will amplify women's voices, that even when women disagree, will still amplify their voices, that come at things with no ego, that speak from a place of understanding, like, fully, and dismantling the patriarchy.
Even if it, like, Mr.
Someone just said, I disagree with that.
I think
you guys are crazy.
So again, I think it depends, right? Like, someone said one whiff of the ick and I leave.
There's been lives.
I have a hard time forgiving. So I will say everyone has their threshold, right? So if somebody is like 95% great and you hear them say something shitty and you're like, oh, I feel like that was a one-off, I'm not going to judge you for continuing to follow this creator. I'm not going to judge you for continuing to follow any creator, nor am I going to necessarily shit on any specific creator. What I will say is my threshold for bullshit is in the fucking dirt. And so if I hear you say something sexist or I hear you weaponize misogyny, I'm probably just fucking out and I'm not going to give you a second chance, right? Everybody gets to have their threshold and I'm not going to tell someone else what that is.
That's a good point. And I'll say that, like, my USMC Angry Veteran, like, he supports women in a way that is so admirable.
Yeah, he's one of my best friends, and
me too.
And if
he gives Thursday motivational text messages.
Thursday texts are so great.
Yeah, and like, he's a great person, and so is Facts Don't Matter. I would never claim anyone else on this app.
And we've seen it, though, time and time again, right? Where there are plenty of men, especially a lot on the left. I know it happens on the right too, but I don't see that on the left, where they use their male feminist whatever to, in fact, convince women they're safe. They use that to convince. We see it time again. I have been a victim of it. I have been a victim of somebody who convinced me they were safe because they were on the left. They're a feminist and they were a narcissist and a terrible, terrible person who took advantage of any vulnerability I had a couple of years ago. And they knew that because they had me convinced that they did support women. But you start to see it real quick when you start to challenge them. When you say anything that challenges them. When you call them out on their inconsistencies, right? Because it never fails. They'll say one thing and later they'll totally flip-flop and you'll be like, wait a minute, but you said whatever. And I'm hearing an echo, so it's throwing me off a second. And so we've seen other women experience that too, right? Where I've watched other women out male creators for bad behavior that they were able to predicate.
They attack them.
They were able to predicate on pretending to be the good guy on the left. So for me, to Dani's point, I have zero, if I get that ick factor, I tend to be like, okay,
if a woman calls you out as a male creator and then you attack them, you silence them, you shit on them, then you are not a supporter of women. If you get called to the carpet and your response is to shit on that woman, I will never forget it.
Somebody
if I have seen it, I will never, ever forget it.
Exactly.
If a woman says, I have seen you do something wrong, the response is, hey, I hold my hands up, as they say across the pond. I take responsibility and I have no ego in this situation. I apologize. Right. And yes, I like Pickles as well. I just don't consider like Pickles, you know what I mean? He's he doesn't make content. He's not really a content creator, he just debates. But I love Pickles. I just want to be clear. He's one of my best friends. So yes, he's a supporter of women. I'm talking about people that make content. And if I have ever seen a woman on this app say, hey, I have witnessed someone do something misogynist or abuse me or treat me in a shitty way, and the response is to attack and abuse them more. Yes, Pickles is like my little brother. Then
there's a lot of names.
You are done in my mind. Period.
So I just want to say there's a lot of names popping up. None of us are claiming to be experts on any of these people. I've met Good Trouble, super nice dude, have no issue with him. But I haven't seen him challenged necessarily by women in the sense of how he would stand if somebody did. I can't speak to that. I respect him as a creator and as a person because he's a good dude. Jolly, real good guy. I get along with Jolly. There's lots of mixed feelings on Jolly. My experience with Jolly has been he is he's been a stand-up dude. He made sure at the DNC a pregnant woman was able, he used his fame to get a pregnant woman a chance to go to the bathroom because of the crazy rules they were having for us creators. Dani probably recalls that.
Yeah, that was a nuts situation.
Stand-up dude. Johnny, if we're talking the same Johnny, Johnny is part of the LGBTQ community. Johnny is often having to defend himself.
Wait, are you guys talking about Johnny Palmadessa?
Which Johnny we talking about?
I like
there's
him.
Johnny. I'm live with one Johnny a lot on Amanda's lives, but I don't know.
He's funny.
And Jones, I like you guys are naming people we like. We're not suggesting that these aren't creators that we like or creators that we value.
No, I want to be clear. What I said was, if I have seen someone produce proof that someone has said something cruel to them, done something cruel to them, firsthand proof. I've gotten multiple messages, screenshots of text messages, and then when they were confronted about it, the response was to shit on that person more. Then I don't respect you. If you claim to uplift women, when a woman says, hey, I've been harmed by you, you do not hurt them further, period. You say, hey, I hold my hands up. If I've harmed you in any way, I'm here to listen. That's the correct response if you're an ally to women.
Yeah. I love Johnny, just for those in the comments about Johnny, because Johnny is hilarious. When you get Johnny in a live and he starts going after MAGA idiots, it is fun to watch.
I think we're also particularly calling out and pointing to, like, I love when men use their platform to speak to other men, to educate other men, to try to call in other men. Love that. I think a couple people have mentioned, like, Mr. Jones. I've seen him do that. We love that, right? We love that shit. What we don't love is men who use their platform to speak to women, to tell women what women already know, to tell women what we already know for ourselves, right? And then they make money off of preaching to women. First of all, you could be amplifying other female voices that are saying these same things and already sharing their experiences. Second of all, we don't need you to talk to women. We need you to talk to men, because the men aren't going to listen to us, right? And also, you as a man, being like a leftist man, talking to women and showing how feminist you are and raking in the money from that, that's low-hanging fruit, right? Because women are so desperate for men that are pieces of shit right now, right? But it takes a lot more courage for you as a man to stand up and say, like, we as men shouldn't be acting this way. Men don't act this way. This is toxic masculinity. This is fragile masculinity. This is how we do better. This is what that looks like. Let me model that for you. This is how you can have these conversations or be emotionally intelligent and blah, blah, blah. Love that. I will love that all day long, right? But talk to your people, right? Like, talk to the men, because the women have heard it before and there's already female voices out there saying that. So, like, amplify the female voices, agree with them. When men are coming into our comments and, like, tearing us apart, stitch that feminist woman's video and talk about why she's right, or talk about how you've seen this as a man, right? There are ways you can amplify the message. But a lot of women are getting sick of these male content creators that are speaking to women, telling women the stuff that women already know, and then they're making a ton of money off of their female audiences, right? Like, that's not doing the work.
And they're playing off of the insecurities. So this reminds me of the Robbie Harvey shit that went down a year and a half or so ago.
Oh my God.
And I took him to task, had some videos do really well. And I made one video in particular that went really viral because I responded to the women in my comments that were defending him. And essentially coming
like a mob
for me.
Of psychos.
They came for me. They're like, he's one of the good ones, and I'm going to report you, and how dare you talk out against him? And I said, look, I will never, ever tell a woman to sit down and be quiet because a man is speaking. You should not want men speaking as your proxy. You should want women speaking up. And the very fact is, this man is predatory and problematic, and he's doing what we refer to as trauma corn on the internet, where he's highlighting women's trauma with no actual intention of doing anything positive or helpful. And y'all are eating it up because you're like, oh, he gets it. He doesn't get shit but paid. That's all that is. He's getting paid, and he's getting access to vulnerable women. Women who came forward and said, yeah, he's been in my DMs. He had his wife with cancer, and he was still in women's DMs. This man, he is a predator with millions of followers, majority of which are women, because he is playing off their vulnerabilities. And no matter how hard we work to take him down, there are just so many women who want to hear from a man because they're, like Dani said, they're so desperate for good men that they will ignore all the red flags because they want to believe one of them is good. And
that is the number one problem with TikTok, because you hear a man saying, oh, I support women, that all of a sudden in women's minds, they do no wrong. And you are full-time, 24 hours a day warriors for a man who would not pee on you if you were on fire. Support women.
Yep.
Yeah, she's talking about Robbie Harvey. If you do not know who he is, you can look him up. And the controversy she's talking about. It was very, very public. Like, it was scary.
Yeah.
I think, and like Mandy said, like, he blocked me. It's also difficult for us to
millions and millions of people. Yeah, I think you have blocked too.
I'm pretty sure I'm blocked. And also, I may have blocked him back as well, because
I did too.
This is dangerous, y'all. Like, it's dangerous. If you call out some of these male content creators like him, right, it can be very dangerous as a woman. So, like, this is something that you got to weigh it, right? Like you have to weigh your safety and you have to weigh other stuff before you do these call outs, because it can literally impact your safety. So we're not like, that's the only, just to be clear, that's the only name that we have definitively called out here. Like people are like, what about this?
I went for it. I was like, I'm going to bring a name to the table.
We'll call out one that and he turned out to be MAGA, right? So we ended up being right at the end of the day. Yeah. So nowhere in here are we calling out any man specifically or saying that any male content creator is terrible. We're saying like, do your due diligence, right? Put your observation eyes on and listen to what you see, right? Like watch the content creator over time. Pay attention to what they do over time. Pay attention to if they remain consistent. Pay attention to if they weaponize misogyny against a woman that they don't agree with. Because if you don't agree with a woman, that's fine. Attack those ideas, right? Attack those ideas.
Do you call them
that.
stupid? Do you say they don't know what they're talking about? Do you publicly discredit them? Or do you critically think like, hey, have I done something wrong here that I should take accountability for? That's the difference.
Are you addressing what they say? When a woman calls you out, do
you say she's an idiot? Do you use all the tactics of the patriarchy publicly to turn on her and then discredit her? The very sat and made money off of on the internet, have people then watch you take those tactics of the patriarchy and use them to silence a woman? Have people witnessed you do that as a content creator? That is the question, and that's what you need to think about male content creators that make women off allegedly supporting women.
My favorite
if a woman criticizes them, do they use the tactics of the patriarchy and you as a woman to silence that woman? To gather you as a mob to shit on somebody who was calling a man to the carpet?
And you as a woman, are you that woman in the comments saying, I can't believe you're going after him, he's one of the good ones? I can't believe I'm going to report you because
you women go after someone who was one of the good ones.
Are you one of those women? Because I need you to sit with that and ask yourself why you would want a man as a proxy to speak for you versus a woman. I need you to, because it comes back to what Dani was saying about like gender believing, like it's we've all fucking experienced that, right?
Where in science where you
the gender credibility gap.
Yeah. Well, we've all experienced it, right? Like whether with a partner or friends where it's like, you can tell, like this was one of those things I was experiencing with my ex where it'd be like, I could tell him something and we could have a conversation about something that I read, something I saw in the news, an opinion on something, and I could say it to him and he could listen, whatever. And 4 days later, he could start telling me the exact same opinion that he came to after talking about it with a man. And I would get so fucking mad because I'd be like, I literally just said that to you. We literally just had, I know you did. But I was like, but you needed to hear it from him to validate it was true. Like, what is that? Why? Because I am completely capable of having, intelligent thought and conversations. But when women hear it, even women who are deep in their misogyny and in the patriarchy, they're taught to trust that man over a woman, and they will come for women who challenge that man. And if you are challenging a man and his response is to immediately go to that place of like there was a dude on Facebook, everybody I knew was mutuals with this guy, so I followed him back. And I posted about the Wisconsin Supreme Court women who were calling out a lawyer regarding the abortion AB ban here in Wisconsin and how they just read that lawyer for filth. Like it was beautiful. And I posted that because that's the energy we really need to see in our judicial system right now. And this guy gets in the comments, and I kid you not, he starts mansplaining to me how the AB ban, in Wisconsin doesn't even matter when there's a federal law, and what we need to be doing is packing heat and doing this, that, and the other. And I'm like, by all means, thank you for mansplaining to me the laws regarding my body. I really appreciate that. But you know what? I'm not here to create more fear. I'm here to highlight sometimes that there are people in places of power fighting fighting for us. And right now, until there is a national ban, we're going to take what we can get. And he immediately went to Bimbo Blonde, this crazy feminist woman who's out of her mind calling me a mansplainer, who doesn't know what the hell she's talking about, who just uses the internet for clout because she thinks she's hot, but really she's just an old over the hill type, whatever. Like all of the tropes. I was an idiot blonde. I was too old. I was too dumb.
Too old, but he's still attracted to you.
But
So
this
you're
is the same dude who was like, I'm for women's
he's so
rights.
confused about how to shit on you, Mandy.
Well,
All the tactics of the patriarchy.
And
Menopausal woman, but wait, she's hot, so she's an idiot, and she's blonde. I'm so confused. I love
my
watching
blonde
men
hair
use the
pisses
tactics
off
of.
so many men. Though I'm gonna stay blonde simply because they think they can. They love to throw that at me. You're just a dumb blonde. I'm like, I'm actually brunette, but I choose to be blonde to piss you off. So it's a good time. But yeah, it was one comment. I said he was mansplaining, and this was a man who in that comment claimed to be an advocate for women, claimed to be fighting for women's rights. It took one comment by me, and he was off to the races with his bullshit. And I was like, oh, you're not a safe person. You're not even kind of safe. And I made sure I took every screenshot and sent it to every mutual we had. Because I was like, I only followed him because y'all are following him. I don't know who this guy is, but he's not safe. And, and that's the thing is like they will reveal themselves real quick when women challenge them.
And Toodle said in the comment, like, I like when someone says like I'm mansplaining because it's a chance for me to learn. Like my partner, if my partner says something and I pause and I'm like, hey, I feel like you're mansplaining right now. My partner's like, no, I'm not, blah, 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 blah. Or if I say like, they will say something back to me and I'll be like, what would make you think you know more about that than me? Because this is my clinical experience and expertise. So like, this is something that I would know about more than you. So can you explain to me why you think you would know more about this, right? And that's a chance for my partner to sit back. My partner's like, I'm sorry, you're right. I was going off of an article that I read and I would love to discuss that article with you, but I do understand that like this is your area of expertise. So not only have you probably read the article, but you probably know a lot more on the background and surrounding this than I do, right? Or if I say like, this feels a little mansplaining to me, my partner will sit back and get curious, right? My partner will be like, I'm so sorry. That is not my intention. That is the impact my words are having on you right now. Can you help me understand how this feels like mansplaining to you? And then you know what? Sometimes we do talk about it and I'm wrong. Sometimes we talk about it and I'm wrong. And I'm like, you know what? Now that I understand your point of view and where you were coming from, you're right. That wasn't mansplaining. I apologize. Thank you for being open to hearing, right? You just get curious. That's all you have to do. I'm so sorry. That's not my intention. I'm curious how this is showing up for you, right? And I will admit when I'm wrong, when there's times that I'm like, you're right. I'm sorry. That was my bad. You weren't mansplaining there, right? Like, but get curious in the first place.
That's such a good point. And it's like that's all I think women want, right? Is just the answer is like, for some reason, anytime you try, or let me just, no, I'm going to make a rash generalization. So I don't want to do that. When you try, oftentimes when you try to hold a man accountable and say, hey, this is something I'm observing that has happened, or something has been brought to my attention, and like, hey, I'm a supporter of you and this is making me uncomfortable. So could we have a conversation about it? And oftentimes the defensiveness is immediate. Oh, no, fuck her. She's an idiot. She's stupid. She's trying to call me out. Let me get people to shut her down. No, it's like by just being curious and just saying, yeah, let's just have a conversation. That is always the answer, because the minute someone will just let me be heard and say, hey, if I made you feel like that, or if someone came to you and I have harmed them, you know what I mean? And I wasn't aware of that, or maybe I was and I didn't have an opportunity to go circle back and talk to them, then I apologize. It's that mother effing simple. And instead, it's like men will go on this like insane journey to like discredit someone, shit on them, beat a show and be like, what the fuck are you talking shit about me? And it's like, no. Like, we all make mistakes. We are all fallible. And someone said something to me that was concerning. And so, like, I'm bringing it to your attention, right? And all you have to do is just say, hey, I'm sorry. I'll listen to you. That is what women want, is just don't be defensive with it. Like, the number one sign to me that someone is not safe is that immediate reaction to say she's a liar.
Like, this is also right now we're like, you know, talking about people that are close to us and in our close spaces, right? Defensiveness brings disconnection. You cannot connect with the other person in front of you if you are being defensive. And there might be there's times that my partner will say something and I'll be like, I need you to give me 5 minutes with this because I'm feeling some defensiveness in me and I need to sit with that, right? I need to sit with this defensiveness. I can't show up for you in the way that you're asking me to in this conversation right now because I'm feeling defensiveness. And I'm taking responsibility for that and accountability for that and saying, let me step back from this conversation right now, manage this, and then I will come back and connect with you, right? But what I'm not going to do is go in on it. And if I do, right, because people in the comments were saying well, women can uphold the patriarchy too. Of course we can. Internalized misogyny is a thing. One of the things I'll call myself out that I struggle with, right, being raised in the patriarchy, I hear men say a lot well, women want to hear our emotions, but they can't hold space for it. Sometimes you're right. As women, that's something we need to practice, being comfortable with men expressing their emotions, being comfortable sitting in the discomfort of men expressing their emotions to us, right? So if my partner is expressing emotions and I'm feeling discomfort, my partner will say to me sometimes, hey, I feel like you're not gently holding space for this right now. I feel like you're not holding space for my emotions right now, and I feel some defensiveness. And do you know what I do? Not respond with defensiveness. I say, okay, you may be right. Let's take a break right now and come back to this in 10 minutes. Let me do some introspection, right? Let me do some work and some introspection. Let me recalm. Maybe I am being defensive. Maybe I have entered a defensive space. Let me examine why that might be, right? And sometimes it's strong emotions from men in my life meant danger, right? In the past, when men had strong emotions in my life, that meant I was in danger. So if my partner comes to me with strong emotions, sometimes I have to be like, this isn't about you, this is about me, but I need a second so we can be in a better space to have this, right? You just have to be gentle with each other, hold space for each other, take accountability for your defensiveness, take a step back, right? But say what's going on in the moment. Ooh, I'm feeling some defensiveness. Let's step back from this for a second so we can both regroup, right? That's a couple working on the same team. You're on the same team. If you're defensive against it, why am I playing defense against you? If you feel like you have to constantly play defense against your partner, examine that. Do you want to be in this relationship? Do you want to be in a relationship where you constantly have, that's fucking exhausting, y'all. That's emotional labor. That's exhausting, right? So examine your relationships like that, because the reason I can show up like that is because I'm emotionally safe in my relationships, right? I have emotional safety. We both have emotional safety to show up in that way. But if you sit here and you're like, I couldn't do that because, do you have emotional safety in your relationship? That's something to take a look at.
It's so true. And I think because I have a PTSD diagnosis, I can do that. To be so defensive with men because of their approach, I'm immediately something bad is about to happen. So I have to cut this off before it starts, because I've been down this road. It's true. I can be defensive, and I need not to be defensive as well. It's such a good lesson as well. And if you can't be safe in that relationship, then you need to evaluate why and be able to have that conversation of why not, which is so true. God, see, I've even learned something. That's so true. We need to be better about having conversations and being defenseless in them and being able to hear it, right? Hear the criticism, because I come from a place of the criticism to me, instead of being able to just accept it and receive it, for me, as being raised by a narcissist, that meant no love, right? So I'm always seeking perfection, which is unattainable. So sometimes sitting defenselessly while people, what I'm perceiving as criticism, but it's just feedback, is very, very, very fucking difficult for me to take. Because in my childhood, that was oh shit, no love today. I have messed up. Yeah, it's panic. I'm I've got to get out of this. I cannot receive this. I have to do whatever I can to shut this conversation down. So it does not happen. Yeah, that is so true. Especially when it's someone I care about. Because, like, then it hurts, right? If it's just a random person I don't care about their opinion, fine. If it's someone I care about, oh my God. Like, we're sitting and receiving it is so hard. Damn, I need to go to therapy.
And even, like, as men, like, because I know we have some men in the comments, like, saying to your partner, like, if you know that if you're in a relationship with an AFAB person or a woman that feels this way, truly, like, breaking that, sometimes my partner will look at me and just be like, hey, I'm on your side. Same team. You're safe here. Do you not feel safe? And then, like, I'll be like, yes, I don't feel safe right now. I recognize I'm safe, but I don't feel safe. And then we seek safety together, right? Together we seek safety. So it's like, what do you need to feel safe?
Dinosaur documentary time.
Right. Dinosaur, absolutely. Sometimes it's that, right? Like, my partner will be like, what do you need to feel safe? And sometimes I'll be like, I just need space from this conversation. I need to step outside, take a deep breath, see what birds are at the bird feeder, right? Like, count my birds at the bird feeder for 15 minutes, watch a dinosaur documentary for 15 minutes, engage the thinking part, not the emotional part of my brain, right? Or sometimes we just get in bed and we cuddle together, right? It'll be like, well, let me just cuddle you. Let your nervous system have a dump, right? Deep breathe. We're in this together. Music is another great one, right? So, like, if you don't feel safe, pause and seek safety together. Or, like, pause and ask your female partner, like, I'm sensing some defensiveness. I'm on your team. What do you need to feel safe in this conversation? And sometimes just that, like, I'll break down crying. I'll be like, I guess I just needed you to tell me that I was safe in this conversation. Right? Like,
I'm crying right now.
That's all you need.
Oh, it's so true. I think as women, we are so on the defensive, right? Like, the way what happened to me to become this strong, it's like, it's hard to ever let the defense down.
And someone said, like, do you ever hate yourself for being easily triggered? Yes, and I try not to, right? It's a practice. It's a practice not to, because that part, just like Felice was saying earlier about, like, parts work, that part of yourself that's triggered and reacting, mine's like an internal little girl, right? So I'm going to say she's trying to keep me safe. Your brain is an association machine. It doesn't work linearly. Your brain is associating patterns, behaviors, tone of voice to keep you safe. It's an association machine, right? It looks for patterns to keep you safe. So your brain's getting a pattern and it's going, uh-oh, danger, we got danger, right? That part of you is trying to keep you safe. So you just sit with that part and you're like, look, I know we feel shame over this. I get it. You acted in a way that maybe wasn't with your values. Maybe you were really reactive and you wish you wouldn't have. We're working on it. But I see you, and you were just trying to keep you safe. I hear you. I hear you throwing a fit in there. I see you. I've got this. We're an adult now. We've got this, right? Like, she's trying to keep you safe. She's doing good things for you. And you can reject her and say, fuck you. I hate this part of me, right? But I don't think that's going to serve you well. So, and also, that's what your parents did to you. Right?
Exactly.
Fuck you. You're not good enough, right?
You thank her, right? Like, or if you're a man, whoever, because your parts, if you're a man, even when you do parts work, it could be a man or a woman or a not, or just a non-binary monster inside of you, like whoever it is, right? But they are trying to protect you, right? Like, that inner child is a part that splintered off during some traumatic incident that learned a set of rules, right? They were in a a survival situation, and learned a specific set of rules to keep you safe in life. So, like, it's almost like a car accident for me. It's like some inner part of me just turns the wheel all the way to the right and takes over and says, I recognize this and I'm going to keep us safe, And it's like, what I've learned is I can't get mad at that inner part of me, right? Like, that's what she learned. And I thank her and say, hey, like, when I couldn't take care of myself, you took care of me, right? And you had to do unspeakable things to take care of us, but we're safe now. So thank you, but I got this, right? So it's about not hating yourself for those moments where you lose yourself and lash out, but just recognizing, like, hey, that used to be how I survived, right?
And no one responded to you with gentleness then. And that's what, like, someone needed to take that little child and be like, hey, come here, I've got you. Don't worry about it. We've got this, right? Nobody did that for you. That's why you're reacting this way, because nobody grabbed you and hugged you and said, don't worry about it. We got it. I'm going to keep you safe, little girl. I got it, right? So, like, grab that part of you can do that. You can do, like, grab that little part of yourself. And, like, I always touch my chest when I do it because that's where I feel it. But I'm always like, hey, I got you. Don't worry about it. I got you. Like, I'm going to keep you safe. I've got you here, right? She needs gentleness. She doesn't need judgment or shame or criticism. That's what they did to you. She needs love and gentleness, right? So, like, give that and you will overcome your triggers faster, right? Because there's the trigger and then there's the shame blame dump that comes afterwards, right? You can have the trigger and not have the shame blame dump, right? So, like, that's healing all by itself. Right? And PTSD and triggers, it doesn't mean that they will never happen. Healing does not mean that you are absent of them. Healing means you can feel them, roll with it, and come out on the other side. Right? That's what healing means. You feel it, roll with it, come out on the other side. Healing doesn't mean they don't happen. So healing means living with your triggers and living with them with gentleness. Right? Learning to live with that with gentleness.
Am a pretty crier. People have told me that before. No, but it's just because, like, I know now it's okay. It's okay, right? It's okay to be triggered and it's okay. And all this makes me a good person, like, because I can feel, like, because I can do this, like, I know I'm healthy, right? Like, I have never seen my mom cry a tear. Never once. Imagine that. Like, imagine how fucked up you had to be to, like, decide I will never feel again. Because, like, these are the moments when we can all connect and, like, see each other and say, I relate to you. And it's like, this is the power, right, of the internet and of people, of being able to say, this is who I am. I'm not ashamed of it anymore. And so, like, yeah, like, I'm not ashamed of who I am.
And people want us to be ashamed of our PTSD, right? Like, they want you to be ashamed. People will shame you for it, right? But, like, that was something that happened to you. That's not something that you did. That's not something that you chose. It was something that happened to you. So the car accidents, like, that's a great example, right? Car accidents sometimes are something that happened to you through no fault of your own. Do we shame somebody that got hit when they were just sitting at a red light? Do we tell them, like, that they're fucking stupid or whatever? No, like, that's something that happened to you through no choice of your own. So we don't shame ourselves for this stuff, right? Like, we move forward and we recover, right? But you don't shame ourselves for the things that happened to us when we were little kids, beyond our control, when we had no ability, no skills to get ourselves out of that situation.
Man, and now we're all adults, and it's great that we can talk about this. Like, this is our power, right? And this is our, like, truly, this is how we find our way back to each other, of being able to connect. And that is the beautiful part about the internet. Like, it's okay to be vulnerable, right? And that's what I worry about. Like, sometimes with men, is the inability to show vulnerability, to just say, hey, I'm defenseless, and, like, you can tell me how you feel, and I'm going to tell you how I feel. And then, like, we might like have a disagreement, but we come out on the other side of it closer, right? And I think that is all it is when, like, as women, we want to know we're safe with people. That's all. Like, show me who you are so I know I'm safe. Like, that's why we're always looking for patterns, because I'm trying to always decide, am I safe with you? Am I not safe with you? And so, like, now that my ability to just show people who I am, it's to say, like, you don't have to worry about me. Like, this is it. Like, I'm nuts, but not in a scary way.
I also think that vulnerability thing, like men's inability to be vulnerable, this is why we have the male loneliness epidemic, right? Like, you cannot, like I talked about, defensiveness brings disconnection, right? So does shame. It brings disconnection from ourselves and disconnection from the people around us. Guilt is something totally different. Guilt is externally focused. I feel guilty for my behavior. Well, my behavior is easily changeable. Shame is, I'm a horrible, bad person. I'm a terrible person, right? Like, then that's not so easily changed. But when you can't access vulnerability, it is impossible to connect with people around you. And we see this all the time in celebrities, right? Like, why can't we connect with celebrities if they seem perfect? Because nobody connects with a perfect person. We connect with imperfectness. We connect with vulnerability, right? That's where our human connection is. Well, if men can't be vulnerable, whether that's with the women in their lives or with their bros or whatever, then they cannot connect with people, and you're going to be lonely. So men sit there and they make fun of women for like crying or sharing our emotional selves and stuff. We're connecting with one another, and that's healing. The male loneliness epidemic largely comes from men being unable to be vulnerable with anybody in their life. If you can't be vulnerable, you cannot connect.
It's so true what you said. Like, one of my favorite things I ever like learned in therapy was like, it explained so much about my mother. And I've done a lot of reading of psychological papers on narcissists, but it's that, like, the difference is like, I made a mistake and I am a mistake. That's the difference between like, you know, like I did something wrong and I am wrong. My being is wrong. And when I was a child, like, I was convinced not that like I needed to feel sorry, you know, but that I needed to feel shame. Like, it wasn't that I had made a mistake. It was that my entire being was wrong. Right. And it's like, that is what you have to like overcome and understand. Like, yeah, mistakes you can overcome. Like, you can change your behavior anytime you want. You can make a mistake. But for me, it was like, I associated every mistake with like, this mistake is me. It is part of me. I should feel shame for who I am. So that is why I couldn't take criticism any longer, because that criticism wasn't like, hey, you made a mistake and like, it's totally fixable, right? I didn't get that message. I got the message of, you are the mistake. And none of us are mistakes, right? Yeah, shame is a shit show. Shame is the worst. Like, shame will take you down. For sure.
Shame is very predominantly used against women. We want women to feel shame because, you know, in the patriarchal system, we want women to feel shame because that keeps them from doing the things that make you uncomfortable or make you frustrated. Like, you know, even just upon in regards to all of the laws we're seeing and everything happening, it's about women feeling shame for being human beings, for being sexual beings, right? We're going to make you feel ashamed of doing all these things. We're going to make you carry the shame, the burden of responsibility, and then we're going to also make it illegal for you to do anything about it. All the while, men can do whatever the fuck they want. It's fine. You go do your thing. We're not going to hold you responsible for it. Why would we do that? Like, it comes emotionally. We're meant to feel shame for being emotionally mature adults or being able to emote and show our emotions. But that's why women are too emotional. No, we're not. You're not emotionally mature enough to recognize the value in being able to express yourself. That's why most of your emotions are all summed up in anger. That's why when you are, when you are leading, it's leading with anger and with an effort to control and dominate, not an effort to understand and communicate. Like, they're not the same.
Yeah, and what I did, men, was regulate. You just saw me regulate my emotions. I feel great now. Like, I feel amazing. I just gonna pick up and go about my day and be productive. Having a little cry is the most healthy thing you could do. When I was a kid, I didn't cry because it was beaten out of me. And never in a time was I ever more unhealthy than when I was not allowed to cry. Like, I was never allowed to have those little moments of like, oh, I just need to go cry for a second, like, because it was not allowed. And like, I was dying, right? And that's why men are dying inside, because they just need to cry or like like acknowledge their own emotions, and they can't.
The two things that scare me the most when I see them in people is people who are incapable of crying and people who never laugh with actual joy. And it's because they never allow themselves to really be in that moment of feeling. My ex's mom was one of those people. I've never seen a genuine laugh out of that woman in the 20 plus years I've known her. I've never seen her cry unless it's something where like it was expected, you know, a funeral, things like that. And even then it was very like reserved. But like the laughter is what freaks me out the most. Because you mean to tell me in 50, 60, 70 years of your life, I didn't know you when you were young, but from what I gather, you've never laughed with your friends until you cried? You've never found something so funny that you cackled? You've never been able to immerse yourself in a live theater performance or a movie or a conversation so completely that you don't even, your self-consciousness goes away and you suddenly just allow yourself to just express yourself and laugh till you literally can't like breathe. That is devastating to me. Because it is in those moments, whether it's crying or the laughing, that I release the most energy, like whether it's good energy, bad energy, that gets that energy out. And it's so healing. Like even when we were hanging out, Dani, like we had multiple moments where we would just have the fucking giggles and we couldn't stop. I was with Maggie and I have video of me just crying because I'm laughing so hard at the random shit she's saying. And it allows you to just release so much energy and it gives you that endorphin rush and it connects you with people. And you don't really see, I don't see men do that as much. They do laugh a lot with each other, but like in terms of men and women together, like it takes a real level of comfortability before you're able to do that with each other sometimes. But when I see people who don't, it doesn't even scare me so much as it makes me so sad for them.
I always say people have two laughs. Like at the end of my live yesterday, someone was like, "Oh, that like you look so happy, you were laughing hysterically." Like the funniest Trump video because there's just those times like you have everyone I think has two laughs: the fake laugh and like the uncontrollable. I'm not laughing on purpose. I can't help it laugh, right? And it's like that's when you feel joy. I could not agree with you more. And when you regulate those emotions and try to control it, it's really unhealthy. Like if you've ever been in crisis situations, like I always say, that's why on the People's Receipts out every day, because I'm always delivering the most traumatic news, but I'm like, laugh so you don't cry. Because like that's my siblings when we were younger. We would be like locked in closets together, just be like, what the fuck is what's wrong with mom? Like, she's really weird. Like, we would just cry laughing, like, hey, mom's really sick. And someone's like, do you still talk to your mother? Yes, I love my mom. Like, it's a really weird relation. Let me just read you the text message that I sent to her at 8:47 a.m. I just want you to know that because you are an uneducated idiot that votes for bigots, I'm going to be kicked off health insurance. And when it happens, I do not forgive you. Do you know that Medicare can no longer accept telemed appointments as of April 1, 2025. So I cannot count the ways in which you have abused and damaged my life, but this one I will never forget. Like my goal in life was just to over communicate with my mother and like never, just in like, and actually she just like sits in it now. She's just like, okay, like I hear you, because she's like, what do you want me to do? Because I'm like, I get it, you're incapable of feeling it. I'm like, I just want you to listen to like all the ways in which you have ruined my life. Like when I really had like a nervous breakdown after I almost died, I had to go to this like intensive outpatient therapy. I talk about it. I went to like PTSD camp when I got diagnosed with PTSD, and like people were talking to their dead parents like in an empty chair. You know what I mean? And like I remember being so moved by that because people were like grown veteran men with PTSD who were like 50 years old who had been in 3 combat tours were like crying for the things they couldn't say to their mom. And I remember them saying to me like, oh, your parents are alive? Like, you can say all this stuff? Like, like everyone said to me, don't ever let anything, you know what I mean? Like, if your parents are still alive, like, let no things go unsaid. And I will say, like, my mom sits through it all. Like, yes, because she's devoid of emotion, but like in her own way, she is trying to hear me. Do you know what I mean? And she can't like emote, but she like tries to mother me in different ways. I can't describe it, but like for what she can do as a crippled, like I now see her as a damaged person, right? Like she was a monster who was terrorizing me. And now I can see like, oh, like actually she was so terrorized by her father, and locked in cellars and, horrible things happened to her that she no longer could feel anymore to survive it. So I see like that's very sad for her. And that's, and I can see it now more clearly. And she, like, in her own crippled human way, tries to make up for me in ways. Yeah, like I can tell you what. Well, my mom is a malignant I mean, I don't want to say malignant because I don't think she's doing it as much as before. But like, she's a true narcissist. She can't, like, probably a little bit of a sociopath, so she cannot like feel. But she doesn't have effective empathy. I just want to be clear, like. Narcissists have cognitive empathy. She knows right from wrong. She can see, like, I can logically see that I'm hurting this person, right? But she can't, the way we can sit in our emotions and say, put ourselves in each other's shoes, she can't really do that. She can cognitively do it, but she can't feel it. So, I mean, yeah, like I talked about this a little yesterday. I was telling you guys the story of kind of why I messed up. Like, my dad is half black and half indigenous Mexican. My mom is 99.9, like the DNA tests are in, like pure-blooded German. I didn't understand what. My grandfather was a very rich man who had a very large farm in Minnesota, in southwestern Minnesota. And I didn't understand, like, we would go there and I would have the eeriest feelings, right? And when my mom had 4 sisters and they got older, they would tell me about, like, what had happened to my mother, which explained to me why I was locked in dark closets all the time. Like, my mom was locked in cellars for days at a time. Like, she was horrifically abused by her father to the point where she won't speak about it. Like, she has never admitted to a word of it, right? Like, I've just heard from some of her sisters, like, oh yeah, there's a reason your mom's like that, right? Like, but it is terrible, but like, it just, know that even narcissists, they're not like that for no reason, right? They are abused in such a horrific way that, like, their brain literally says, like, no one's ever going to hurt me again. And to make sure that happens, I believe I'm God now. Like, imagine the horror show you have to go through to then convince yourself I'm God. It's not good, right? So yeah, like, in a weird way, like, I am working through it with my mother, and like, I'm not going to let her die without hearing every goddamn thing I have to say. That's what I decided. Like, she will hear it all. She will be dying in a hospital, and I'd be like unrolling a scroll of things, just reading them.
And I wish I could have that candor with mine, because I've hinted about my very strained relationship with my very codependent mother. But the way she's never gone through any sort of she will resort to emotional abuse if I try to be honest. So I have to, basically, I live in a situation where I kind of avoid interacting, and then I keep it very, I don't know, sterile, if you will. Like, I can't let her, because my mom, like, that is the one person on this planet who can trigger every insecurity, every trauma response, every whatever, get the stomach aches, get the tears flowing, get me shutting down and not wanting to deal with anybody in a text message, because she has never been good with that mother-daughter boundary. It's always been, she sees me as like a friend, and I'm like, maybe if we had been mother-daughter when I was a kid, but since you always treated me like somebody who needed to know way more than I ever needed to know about you, like, even as a kid, and I was always criticized. My parents were both alcoholics. Our relationship is so weird. So, like, I actually am at a place where it's like, I want to go maybe more of a no contact situation, but I am the only person she has. Like, the only person. So
Mandy's like literally taking care of her mother, and I have the same situation. Like, I, not as much as you are, Mandy. Like, you are literally, it's weird to parent your parents who did not parent you. Like, it is the strangest experience. Like, you're angry about it, but you're also like, okay, this is an adult child, so I can't abuse them. Like, I was like texting Joanna and Cootery and Chrissy. I was like, I want to smother my mother with a pillow. Like, this morning. Yeah. I'm picturing smothering her with a pillow. No,
I mean, and I think
okay. That's probably healthy. That's healthy.
You're thinking it, you're not doing it. Like, that's the thing. And you're admitting, like, you know what? I recognize that this is an extreme thought, but like, I'm still having it. So like, I do the same thing. Like, I'll be like, I need to say this out loud, and I don't care. I'll tell those people I trust, like, I know this sounds bad, but I just need to say it out loud because I can't sit with it, because then I overanalyze, why am I thinking this way? Why, am I really psychotic? Like, what is happening? It's like, no, I just need to say it out loud. And then usually the people I trust will be like, no, that's not crazy. You've been through a lot. It makes sense that your brain would be like, this is the ultimate way to protect you. Like, if you didn't have to deal with this. But yeah, no. And right now with the Medicaid cuts that they're gonna like be calling your representatives today, because
That's why I'm so mad. That's why I was lashing out at my mother because of what's happening.
Yeah, my mom just got on Medicaid. She just got in Medicaid approved housing. If that goes away, she'd probably have to live. I don't have the room or the patience like to have her living here. But she lived with me when she was going through her cancer treatment, and it nearly was the end of our relationship, because she is not a person who will do what's in her best interest unless you literally are dragging her into the car to say, I am not qualified to care for you, and the side effects you are now having from your medication are so severe, you have to be seen, and I'm going to drag you to the car to make sure that you are, or I'm going to call an ambulance to make sure that you are, or the nurse calling me going, your mom was supposed to be in, but we can't find her. She stopped in, and I was like, I'm going to go home for a while and I'll come back for my treatment, and then never came back. I had to drive all over West Central Wisconsin to find my mother. I have an Apple AirTag in her purse. Hidden in her purse, because that woman will go nowhere without her purse. And I'm like, there were times she would call me because of her blood pressure being low. She'd be really confused about where she was, and I'd be driving all over trying to figure out where the hell my mom had gotten off to. I have a tracker in her purse so that I know, like before I go looking for her. Like, it is, and yet I do love my mom. I wouldn't do what I do for her. I wouldn't put myself through it if I didn't love her. That's the thing, right? Like, that's the hard part, is even through the trauma, even through the abuse, even through what you experienced,
you love them. Yeah,
we love them.
Okay. Yeah, like imagine, like it's your primary attachments in life. Like, it's even more so than your father. Your mother is your first and primary attachment, right? Like, you have no choice but to attach to your mother for survival. So like, the way I look at it, and like, I know so many people in here have said, my mom's also a narcissist. I understand exactly what you're saying. The way I look at it is, my last abusive relationships will be with my parents, right? Like, I still even recognize that, like, this is still an abusive relationship, right? Like, my parents are not fully healthy people. Have they made some progress? Absolutely. Compared to where we were, Jesus Christ, when I was a child, we have come leaps and bounds, but they are still not healthy people. So like, the cycle of abuse will end here with me. That's how I look at it. Like, and like, I'm not going to repeat the cycle. I'm not going to marry my father or marry my mother and continue it on. Like, when my parents die, these will be the last like narcissist borderline I know. Like, and then I'll just be like, okay, thank you. Like, it's over. And that's okay, right? Because I can't help but be attached to these people. Like, I don't know. It's hard to break. And someone said, my parents in the comments, sorry, Mandy. Someone in the comments said, yeah, my siblings won't talk to my parents. It's, yeah, because you're in a codependent cycle, you're in an unhealthy relationship, and your siblings have broken free, right? And you're still the attachment in the unhealthy relationship that talks them. It's true. That is me as well. I was the golden child who had to be perfect, but people think, oh, you're not the scapegoat. No, I mean, you, even as a golden child, you're a scapegoat, but you are the one who is still attached that can't escape, right? Like, my siblings are off living footloose and fancy free with like families. I'll never have a family. Like, I'm super damaged, and I will make sure that's why I won't have children. That's why I'm not going to be married. Like, this cycle will end here. Like, I am sure of it. Like, and that's like the decision I have made.
No, being the good, I always say being the good child just comes with so much more stress than you realize. Like, that the kid they can count on all the time, when you're like, I don't want you to count on me. Like, just let me be. But and I have a brother, but he is deeply addicted to things and has a lot of mental health issues, and he takes advantage and steals from my mother. So like, he can't be the one who's looking after her, because he will leave her with nothing. And so and she has very little anyway, but like, he is just, so I don't have a relationship with him either. People probably think I'm a terrible but I'm like, addiction is quicksand, and I have tried very hard to be in his life, and it has resulted in nothing but me being stolen from and me being abused in that relationship. And I'm like, I'm good. Like, I'm an adult, and I have 3 kids that I
have to protect. Yeah,
I raised to be. I made a very like
yeah,
I
you're
made
an amazing
a vow
mom,
to never be
amazing.
Thank you. And I mean, I'm sure I've given them enough things for therapy at some point, but not anything like debilitating.
No, Mandy, because the difference is all you have to say to a child, because I am that child. I'm the child still begging my parents to love me. Like, all you have to do is with kids is it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to mess up. You just have to say, we're a team. Like, we're a team. I'm going to mess up. You're going to mess up, but we're on this team together, and I'm never, I'm always going to be here. And then you are a successful parent. That is the only thing it takes. That's it. It's okay to mess up. Like, no kid, it's just, my parents were not on a team with me. They were working against me, right? Like, you're a great mother. I listen to you talk and I'm like, oh. Like,
I know, but I mean, your kids are kids. So there's always been moments where they look at me like I am the evil monster in their life. But having a 21-year-old who now often references how many times I was right, how many times he should have listened, how glad, it's the fact that his girlfriend likes me so much. And I've said to her straight up, I'm like, he's acting in a way he shouldn't be. You need to let me know. I got you. And it's why I think it really hurts me so much too, to see my daughter's boyfriend having such changing so much, because I brought him into our family like family when he started dating her, because that's just who I am. I became like a mom in that situation for him too, because his mom and dad have so many, a lot of drug, alcohol, they didn't raise him, issues. So to see him sort of losing his way is really hard for me, but I know I can't do anything. All I can do is be supportive. And in terms of my daughter right now, the best thing I can do is continue to support her. And with my sons, continue to support them and show them and try to impart on them how to be good men, against a world that has all the makings to teach them otherwise. And I'm really thrilled, because my oldest, growing up in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin, absolutely could have been a Trump or MAGA kid, because that's what a lot of the guys around here are. And he's not. And he's super proud of the work I do, and he's super proud to show off what I do to his girlfriend and his friends, be like, my mom's kind of a badass, and I'm proud of that. Because never in my life have I been like, my mom's a badass. You know what I mean? I'm like, that's so cool.
My mom is a badass, in a sociopathic way. I put my mother against any man any day. Imagine the 2 people that raised me. That's one thing I will say about my parents. They are very intelligent, and they are forces to be reckoned with. My mother is terrifying. One day I'm going to bring her on this live, and she's going to charm you all, and you're going to be like, what the hell?
Right? That's what she'll do. My mom would too, though. I think my mom...
You'll be like, oh, she's really smart. And I'll be like, she got you. Welcome to hell.
People yell at me. I've had people from my hometown get mad at me because I'll be on a live just venting a little bit about just the stress of, especially back when I was really her in-house caregiver, and just the stress of like being the primary caregiver to the person who caused you most of your childhood trauma. That's a lot. And I was talking about it, and kids from my brother and sister's class that are like a year younger than me would get in my live and be like, but your mom is amazing. Like, what are you talking about? I'd be like, hold on. You know her for the version that she gives the world. You don't know her when her walls are down and you're getting the real version. And mother-daughter relationships on a good day can be challenging. But when you add a history with alcoholism, depression, maybe a bipolar disorder, she was diagnosed and then not diagnosed. Like when you're dealing with all of these things, and I'll give my mom credit. My mom also was very abused as a child. She went through so much. And I always joke that and this is terrible, but I mean it with love, the crazy gets exponentially less with each generation. Because like her mom was just nuts. Her mom wanted to hire a hitman to kill my grandpa. Like it was a whole thing.
Hope.
Like, there's a whole thing. But like you don't know somebody on that level if they're not your mom. And it's so frustrating when you bring them two things like alive and you're like, everybody falls in love with them. And you're like, but you don't know.
I know. No, it's true. No, it's true. I think everyone could. It's true. My mom, like the men that used to abuse me most in my life, like I dated this like professional athlete for 10 years who was extremely wealthy and extremely well known. And like, that's when I really truly knew I was like, damn, my mom is the most toxic person. It was like, no matter what happened to me, I would have a black eye and she would be like, you did something wrong and you need to get him to forgive you. And I'd be like, that was my mother. That was what I was like, holy shit. Still to this day, this man who is married with 4 children who are all daughters, like, God help those girls. And he still is in contact with my mother. He lives in this state and continues to contact my mother to try to stay close to me. And that's when I was like, oh yeah, narcissists hanging out with other narcissists, lying in wait to abuse me. It's so true. And so, yeah, you never know anyone's mom until you know. Like, you know, it's like narcissists are so great at selling themselves publicly. Like, I would try to convince therapists, you know, sometimes, like, what was going on in my house. Or, like, that's why I say, like, as a teacher, mandated reporters failed me at every turn. I used to try, and then they would be like, they would go to my mother, she would manipulate them, and then they would punish me for lying.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's confusing. But anyhow, like, yeah, I need to it's 2:00. Yeah, I have a meeting at 2:30. So Mandy, I love you guys as always. We didn't get to the things we're going to talk about. We'll make Dani talk about, like, I just want to show you guys one thing before we go and then like read it. And then we'll start with it next time it's probably better because I didn't have time. I mean, we have a doctor, so I didn't need to know it. But I really didn't have time to sit with like the methodology of the research because I like to try to keep up with Dani because she's so smart. But yeah, this is fascinating stuff. Like, just to give homework for next week, like the ProPublica, which if you don't understand, these are former like Pulitzer Prize winning journalists from the New York Times. So like these are very intelligent, very interesting people. They are, because Texas is refusing to track the maternal mortality rates, they are buying huge data sets from hospitals in Texas and tracking women dying in real time. And it is the most I shouldn't say fascinating. It's probably closer to horrifying. Like, this is horrifying stuff.
Yeah.
How fast women are dying and how actively they are covering it up. And basically, because they're not going to investigate, like, ProPublica is dedicated to buying these data sets and data around women dying in Texas and studying it. And this is horrifying stuff, but we'll talk about it next week because this is truly like what matters. Women in maternal health deserts are not making it. And if Medicaid is cut,
they're getting unnecessarily sick. Yeah. There's no reason for sepsis rates to be increasing, and sepsis, and Dani will explain it all way better next week, but like sepsis can go from bad to deadly in no time. It can turn so quickly. So like seeing these rates should alarm everyone, because sure, being septic doesn't mean you unalive, but it also means you have a much greater chance of unaliving. So, and it's not necessary. It doesn't need to come to that. So yeah, we'll get into that next week. It's a really, if you get a chance, read it up. Yeah, it's
those are the years abortion was banned. And these are also happen to be the years they're refusing to report on deaths due to.
Yeah, they don't want to, because it's in the past. We don't need to report on that.
Women are unaliving in Texas hospitals and they are covering it up. So yeah, we'll talk about that next week. But this was a great therapy session. I needed it. I'm going to go do some reflection and journaling. And I will see you guys tomorrow, 11:30 Pacific time, 2:30 Eastern. There also is this terrifying presser that happened this morning with the Republicans about the Medicaid cuts. So that's what we'll be talking about tomorrow.
Call your representatives. They're
call your Congress people, because this is happening. This is truly happening.
Nearly $1 trillion being cut.
Just from Medicaid, and then what is it? 20 bill. It's like 20 billion from SNAP.
Yeah,
it is children, the elderly, and the disabled.
Especially women, like Dani's talked about a lot. Medicaid covers a lot of reproductive health care. Women are going to be extraordinarily impacted by these cuts. We just it's disenfranchising so many. So
yeah.
And if you're somebody who happens to be MAGA in here, which I don't know that we have anyone right now, but like, if your mindset, and I know you got to go and so do I, but if your mindset is they're making these cuts to give money back to the American people, they are not. This is not about giving back money to the middle and lower class. It's about shifting money to the rich. Nothing about this is saving us money. Nothing about this is giving us back money. It's about taking money that's already there and giving it to people who don't fucking need it. That's what it is.
And I like to say this, especially when I debate like with Pickles, is like, if you say to me that you believe as MAGA that the Republicans are cutting or rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse, then I say to you, that is a sign to me that you don't know how to read. I'm sure at that point that you can't read, because if you've read the budget proposal, we are saving no money. Even with every cut, if they cut every federal worker, if they stop medical research that makes us money, for every tax dollar invested in medical research, we make $2.46. We were going through the IRS numbers. For every dollar we invested the IRS, from the 0.1%, we get over $6 back for every dollar we invest. These are good investments of our tax dollars. And we will still go into debt trillions. We are still going to be bankrupt by these billionaire tax cuts. So if anyone ever says to you, oh, they're saving us money, then you 100% know that that person talking to you is an idiot who can't read. Like, if you want MAGA, we need to challenge MAGA to read. Like, that is my new challenge to MAGA. Read something. I challenge you to educate yourself.
And I promise
we're all going to go bankrupt together.
Yep. And if you think the fuck around find out videos from MAGA people starting to find out now are bad, just wait till they cut $1 trillion from Medicaid and billions from SNAP, because we already know it is red MAGA states that benefit the most from those programs, and they're going to find out. But the thing is, we're all in the find out together, and I don't want any of us having to find out. That's the thing, right? Like.
I can't wait though. I mean, no, you're right. And Arizona, I want to be like, oh, we have a blue governor and blue senators and blue AG. But yeah, Arizona, we are one of those welfare states on Medicare and California. So it's like, we are going to all find out together in real time. And maybe as a result, MAGA will learn to read and understand things. Who knows? Like, this could be where they all motivate to learn something. And yes, someone, Toodle said in the comments, Joanna, tomorrow we have a baby. Joanna's daughter is having a baby tomorrow. And again, in my link tree, we have an Amazon baby registry where you could buy a onesie or different baby gifts. It's going to be a biracial boy in a small town from Arkansas who we will raise to be the savior of the world. Just, you want the best for your children. No pressure. No pressure. It's fine. Well, I think we'll get pictures and an update, but like, hey, we have 18 years to make him the best. It'll be awesome. Can you imagine? Like, once he's like 16, he'll be like, who the hell are all you people? Like, I owe you nothing. And I'll be like, I bought you a onesie.
Yeah.
I'm your aunt. Don't walk away from me. Like, I can't wait. Yeah. So I'll make a blanket. That is so nice. I love that. Oh my God. I love that. So again, there's an Amazon baby registry in my link tree. Everyone take a look he's going to be diabolically left. I know. I cannot wait. It's going to be amazing. And I'll see you guys tomorrow at 11:30 Pacific, 2:30 Eastern. Respect me. I bought you a onesie 19 years ago. Exactly, Claudia. And I will say that too. I will wait to say it 19 years. I will set a calendar update for 19 years to say that to that kid. Anyways, thank you, Mandy. Another amazing day. Love you. See you next week.
See you next
Bye.
week, guys.